Chapter 949. Promise him. Promise him. Promise him. The members of the basketball team jeered and Gu Mingming's face turned red, but she still nodded her head slightly. Snake heaved a long sigh of relief. He suddenly felt that these stupid humans were not completely useless. At least they knew how to help him lighten the mood at crucial moments. Seeing that they had added fuel to the fire to get Tu Ming to give him a status, he would treat them better. Snake stood up and pulled Gu Mingming into his arms. He heaved a long sigh of relief. Tu Ming, you are finally mine. Gu Mingming knew that her nod meant that she had a boyfriend. Something like a boyfriend, she should be able to hug him, right? Her small hands wrapped around Snake's waist timidly. It felt good. Snake's waist turned numb and his entire body trembled. In both his past and present lives, this was the first time Tu Ming had taken the initiative to hug him. Unable to vent the boiling emotions in his heart, Snake lowered his head and kissed Gu Mingming's lips deeply, pouring all his tenderness into her. Until Gu Mingming almost suffocated, Snake then released her reluctantly. He chuckled. I will accompany you in your first awakening of love, and in the future, I will accompany you until your hair turns gray. I only exist because of you. So Tu Ming, since you want me, you must not abandon me. Do you remember? Gu Mingming nodded, her heart itching. She knew that she did not have deep feelings for Snake, but she liked him. She liked how he protected her in his palms and carried her in his heart. His dominance and everything about him could only belong to her alone. This feeling of being cherished and cared for made Gu Mingming sink into it. She could not resist it. She knew that there were some gaps that could not be crossed. For example, identity, status and family background. But before they had no choice but to separate, she wanted to cherish this one-sided love. She wanted to enjoy all the warmth he gave and reciprocate all the sincerity he had. After the club activities ended, the team leader led his men to clear the area. He asked all the girls who had broken up today to leave the basketball court. He then walked to Snake and wanted to put his hand on his shoulder. But he did not have the guts. So he stood in front of Snake and Gu Mingming and rubbed his hands. Our basketball club has never been so glorious. Snake, you are really too awesome. Let's go to a karaoke tonight as a welcome party for you. How about it? Snake looked down at Gu Mingming with a doting expression. Do you want to go? Gu Mingming instinctively wanted to shake her head, but the captain waved Erkang's hand and said, Junior, basketball is a sport that emphasizes teamwork. Mutual understanding and trust are very important. Snake just joined us today, he needs to cultivate his relationship with us. What's more, today is your first day of love, you should celebrate it no matter what, right? This right was obviously directed at Snake. It had to be said that the second half of the captain's sentence was very accurate. The confirmation of his relationship with Tu Ming was a cause for celebration. Gu Mingming saw that Snake's lips were already curling up, so she nodded and said, All right, then let's go together. That day at the KTV, everyone was having a wild time, but Snake just sat quietly and watched Gu Mingming, who was fooling around with everyone with a smile on his lips. Chapter 950. Everyone took turns to sing a few rounds of songs. Some sang in different accents, while some sang with deep emotions. The last one was Snake. The team leader said that as long as Snake sang one song, today's event would end successfully. If he didn't sing, his and Gu Mingming's good days would not be complete. Gu Mingming's eyes lit up. Snake did not believe in superstitions. As long as he was around, who could stop him and Tu Ming from being complete? He did not like to put himself in a position for others to entertain. Previously, participating in swimming competitions was already his limit. If not for the fact that he wanted Tu Ming to have an early impression of him, even if it was just to look at him in the newspapers, he would not do such a thing. Now that his relationship with Tu Ming was confirmed, he did not need to do such foolish things. His Tu Ming would always be watching over him. But he could not resist Tu Ming's expectant gaze. Thinking that this bunch of idiots had added fuel to the fire and helped him today, he nodded and pulled Tu Ming into his arms. They sat on the sofa and sang, 123 I Love You. After singing, Snake immediately stood up and left the KTV with Gu Mingming in his arms. Everyone was not used to his style of doing things, but they did not mind too much. After all, he was already famous in the school when he was in the swimming club. Being able to hear a mute sing a song today was already enough to give them face. Therefore, no one cared about whether A wanted to go Dutch or not. The captain generously said that he would pay the bill, but when he went to the cashier to pay, he was told that half an hour ago, the KTV had changed owners, and the new owner's first order was that their private rooms were free of charge, and they could eat and play as they pleased. So, the team members went back and partied through the night. On the other side, Gu Mingming and Snake returned to the villa. They had just closed the door when Snake pressed Gu Mingming against the wall and kissed her deeply. There was a night light in the house. It was orange in color and the light was hazy and ambiguous. Gu Mingming did not know what to do. Gu Mingming's face was extremely red and her heart was beating wildly. If this level of heartbeat was due to a little deer bumping around, Gu Mingming was very worried about the little deer. It would probably die from the bumping. Snake's voice was hoarse as he asked softly with a single sound. We just confirmed our relationship today, the progress shouldn't be too fast. Gu Mingming curled up and lowered her head. Ha! Snake chuckled. Fast? He had waited 1,000 years in the beast world to meet her, and after reincarnating, he had waited a full 19 years to hold her in his arms. Not only was it not fast, it was simply too slow. However, he had no intention of scaring her. Although he desperately desired her, he wanted to save the best for the day they got married. He didn't want her life to have any more imperfections. She had suffered for 18 years. It was enough. In the future, with him protecting her, she could only be happy. But before that, there was something he needed to take care of. He lightly touched Gu Mingming's little nose and said, "You're my girlfriend. Can't I kiss you when we're deeply in love?" No. Gu Mingming was not referring to this. She just felt that he wanted to do something else after kissing her. Then you can kiss me? Snake did not wait for Gu Mingming to finish her sentence. He pecked her on the lips again and said, "Good girl." Gu Mingming felt an indescribable sweetness growing in her heart when she was being praised in such a childish tone. She did not say anything and just smiled. Since Tu Ming wants to be a good girl, then this matter. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? With that, Snake took out an envelope from his pocket. There was a heart-shaped sticker on the envelope. The sticker was slightly raised and it was obvious that it had been opened. That was the love letter she used to confess to the captain of the basketball team yesterday morning? Digression, Gu Mingming thought. You have to maintain your persona, old brother. Settling scores after the fall is not suitable for you. Chapter 951. The white fog gathered again as if that screen had never appeared. Gu Mingming held her forehead as she looked at the beast deity. Why do I feel like I will be taught a terrible lesson by Snake? The beast deity chuckled. I feel the same way too. Gu Mingming was speechless. It was not her fault for handing the love letter to the basketball club senior. She did not even remember him. So I forget it. She could not help her past self even if she screamed till her throat broke. Anyway, she was such a coward. As long as she admitted her mistake and acted cute, Snake would not strangle her to death. Turning her head, Gu Mingming adjusted her expression. Papa, I have finished watching the television series. The beast deity nodded. Do you want to watch the next episode? Gu Mingming rolled her eyes. Don't act like you don't understand. Give me your pocket money. The beast deity rubbed his nose and laughed dryly. What do I want this time? Tell me. Gu Mingming thought for a moment. I am going to find the soul of the forest. Is there anything I cannot handle and need to prepare in advance? The beast deity thought for a moment. No. Gu Mingming nodded. Then when can Wabi be sent to Snake's side? Can you tell me now? The beast deity shook his head. Gu Mingming dusted her butt and stood up. All right, I won't ask for pocket money this time. I will just treat it as a filial daughter accompanying you to watch the television series. The beast deity gave a benevolent and kind smile. Were you provoked by Wabi's words? Gu Mingming did not deny it. I have lacked a father's love since I was young. Actually, I do not know how to interact with a father. Although you look more like a brother than a father, but based on the fact that you are a deity, I will not be presumptuous enough to ask your age. Well, I still have to thank you for acting as my father. Accompanying you to watch television series, it can be considered as me enjoying the familial love of my parents. In the future, I will try my best to come back to accompany you, if you are not busy. The beast deity nodded with a smile. You are always welcome home. Gu Mingming waved her hand and turned to walk into the white fog. After the expected free fall, Gu Mingming opened her eyes and saw 3 furry little heads squeezing onto her. He raised his hand and touched them one by one before Huda and his brothers ran off happily. Elvis helped Gu Mingming up from behind and used his chest to let her lean against him. He brought a bowl of clear and sweet water to Gu Mingming's lips and fed her while saying, It's raining heavily now, so we found a temporary cave to hide in. We will continue our journey after 2 more days when the weather clears up. Gu Mingming nodded. During the monsoon season it would either not rain or once it did, it would last for 10 days to half a month. It was indeed not a good time to travel. If it was just her, Elvis, Leah and Wabia, it would be fine. But the problem was that she had 3 sons and she could not bear for them to suffer with her. Thinking of her sons, Gu Mingming turned to look at her 3 beast-like sons. Frowning, she asked, "What happened to the 3 of them? Why are you in your beast form?" Elvis chuckled and asked, "Don't you feel that they are different?" Chapter 952. Elvis patted Huda's head and said, "Leader, begin." Huda nodded his head, while Jiaoyu and Kanwu took 2 steps back, feeling a little eager to give it a try. Then Huda slowly transformed into a human in front of Gu Mingming. But, this height, Gu Mingming suddenly sat up straight, unable to hide the surprise on her face. She was overjoyed to see this graceful young man in front of her. The immaturity of a 6 or 7-year-old had faded away, and the current Huda was like Qixin, like a 17 or 18-year-old youth. Elvis threw a piece of beast skin to him, and Huda tied a simple beast skin skirt around his waist. He took 2 steps forward and said, "Mummy, I have evolved into a first-level orc." Gu Mingming held Huda's face with both hands, feeling so relieved that she was about to cry. Her son had grown up, and although he did not have elegant clothes, he still looked like a gentle young master. The corners of his eyes and the tips of his brows were steady and reserved, and his exquisite facial features looked as if they were carved. He was resolute but not fierce, and belonged to the kind of warm man that people would feel was reliable and upright at one glance. "Congratulations, my baby." Huda smiled and retreated to the side. Jiaoyu took 2 steps forward and placed his front paw on Gu Mingming's knee. Then he slowly transformed. When he turned into a human, he knelt on one knee and placed both hands on Gu Mingming's leg. He looked up at Gu Mingming with a smile on his lips, perfectly curved, and a pair of eyes that looked exactly like Gu Mingming's, glowing with amber light. Jiaoyu was different from Huda. Even if he was intentionally smiling so harmlessly, he still exuded a bad boy vibe. He was the kind of person who walked through the mortal world without a speck of dust. When faced with an innocent girl's confession, he would accept the love letter with a smile and say, "Miss, you are so pure, why do you want to get involved with me?" He clearly had a face full of sunshine, but no one would believe that he was really harmless. If he was in school, he would probably become the public enemy of all the boys in school. "Mummy, I have also evolved into a first-level orc." Gu Mingming rubbed her son's head and smiled. My son is really handsome." Elvis threw a piece of beast skin to Jiaoyu, and as he tied it he asked, "Between me and Qixin, who is more handsome?" Gu Mingming chuckled. "All handsome. My sons are equally handsome." Jiaoyu did not buy it and pouted, "Forget it, I will not make things difficult for mother to lie. Qixuan's face is indeed blessed by the heavens. If not for the fact that they were born together, I would have suspected that he is Father Li's son." Elvis's face darkened. Did this mean that Leah was more handsome than him? Jiaoyu's gaze turned towards Elvis. Seeing that his face had darkened, the corners of his lips curled up in satisfaction. After all, he would have to move out after he became an adult. There wouldn't be many opportunities for him to cause trouble in the future. Jiaoyu took 2 steps back to make room for Kanwu. Kanwu shook the fur on his body and slowly transformed into his human form. He was half a head taller than his 2 brothers and was at least 1.9 to 2 meters tall, almost as tall as Elvis. He and Huda were the complete opposite of each other. His eyebrows were like swords and his eyes were like stars. His features were sharp, and even though he was still immature, he exuded a hint of heroism. It had to be said that even though Kanwu and Elvis were like fire and water, but just based on looks alone he resembled Elvis the most. Without waiting for Elvis to throw the beast skin over, Kanwu pulled a piece of beast skin and tied it around his waist. He smiled. "Mummy, we have all evolved into first-level orcs. We can protect you better in the future." Aside from the topic. Chapter 953. Gu Mingming was extremely touched, but her heart ached at the same time. She remembered that Elvis had said that he had to go through all those hardships to reach adulthood at the age of 1. But her sons, back then, the 3 little ones had forcefully broken through to become half-orcs because of Ellie's provocation. It was like pulling up seedlings to help them advance, and it was very taxing on their bodies. Leah had also said that most children would reach adulthood at 2 or 3 years old, and the 3 brothers would only be able to accumulate enough energy to advance when they were 4 or 5 years old. But now, why did all 3 of her sons advance when she woke up from her sleep? Wabiai, who had gone out to hunt, walked in through the rain. His tail was wrapped around 5 to 6 prey. They had died so horribly that their original faces could not be recognized. In the past, Gu Mingming would have screamed in fear. But after having Snake's memories. Seeing that Gu Mingming had woken up, Wabiai was slightly surprised. He threw the prey to one side and transformed back into human form. He moved closer to Gu Mingming and asked, "What did your father say?" Gu Mingming shook her head. "I can't say." Wabiai sighed. This was the third time he had heard this sentence and he was already used to it. Then he asked, "What about him? Is he all right?" Gu Mingming chuckled. "Yeah, I got what I wanted." Wabiai raised his brows. "Did he take you down?" The moment he asked that, Elvis and Leah tensed up. Gu Mingming could clearly see their ears pricking up. They were obviously waiting for Gu Mingming's reply. Gu Mingming chuckled and nodded. "He is over there. He has confirmed his relationship with the other me." Lee's face darkened. He walked to Gu Mingming's side and asked plaintively, "He is your boyfriend?" Gu Mingming wanted to say that it was not her, but on second thought, it was clearly her. So she nodded, admitting it. Lee's expression was grave. His eyes were filled with resentment. "Then what about me, you?" Gu Mingming did not understand. Leah said, "Elvis is your husband and I am your boyfriend. Now that Snake has snatched away my boyfriend status, what should I do?" Gu Mingming burst out laughing and said, "He is my boyfriend in another dimension, not the me in front of you." Leah said, "That won't do either. Go and tell father-in-law to break them up." A gust of cold air blew over. Wabiai was already in a position to attack Leah. Gu Mingming glared at Wabiai. "How dare you touch my man? I will turn you into snake soup." Without waiting for Wabiai to retort, Gu Mingming held Lee's face and kissed him. "You have long been my partner. Why are you still fighting for the boyfriend title?" Leah completely ignored Wabiai. Indeed, he could not defeat him in a fight, but he had no intention of competing with that dumb snake. Right now, he was more concerned about his status by Gu Mingming's side, so he waved his furry tail and wrapped it around Gu Mingming's waist, stuffing it into her arms. He hugged Gu Mingming from behind so that her back was completely pressed against his chest. He rested his chin on her smooth shoulder and said, "Mingming, I want a status, a unique one." Wabiai's eyes widened in shock. Gu Mingming took a deep breath and asked, "Hubby, how is it?" Leah was stunned for 2 seconds before asking, "What do you mean?" Gu Mingming said. That was how partners were addressed in the early days. Chapter 954. Later, Gu Mingming found out that it was Wabiai who helped her 3 sons evolve. His method was simple and violent. He just dragged the 3 of them out and gave them a good beating every day. Males gained experience from battles. Lee's conservative estimate of 3 to 5 years was based on the fact that they only participated in hunting and only fought against wild beasts. Actually, Elvis and Leah could also be her sparring partners, but because Gu Mingming cared too much about her 3 sons, they would subconsciously show mercy during the battle. As a result, many attacks were ineffective and did not have the effect of accumulating experience. But Wabiai was different. Snakes were naturally cold and indifferent. As for showing mercy, he did not understand it at all. He did not hold back at all when he beat the 3 little ones up. But apart from Gu Mingming herself, Wabiai was the strongest fighter in the entire beast world. With such a high-level training partner, the 3 little ones' experience soared even if they just stood there and got beaten up. So in just 3.5 days the 3 little ones broke through their limits and leveled up. After hearing the entire process, Gu Mingming did not say anything else. She just lifted the hide and put on her shoes. She hugged Wabiai's neck and dashed into the rain. "Come little shit. Let's have a good talk about life." Crack, 3 huge trees fell. Clang, a crater was smashed into the ground. Smack smack smack, rubble fell to the ground. A new cave was smashed into the side of the cave they were originally staying in. When Gu Mingming clapped her hands and returned from the cave, Leah used a piece of beast skin to carry her to the bonfire. Elvis had already returned to his original form and all the fur on his body was warmed up, allowing her to snuggle in his arms for warmth. The 3 little ones stood obediently in a row. They promised obediently that they would always listen to their mother and never make her angry. As for Wabiai, he had not felt so good in a long time. He was sprawled in the newly created cave, reminiscing the wondrous feeling of being unable to move in pain. This heavy rain lasted for a full 9 days. On the 10th day it finally cleared up. Gu Mingming felt that she would grow mushrooms if she stayed in the cave any longer. She stretched lazily under the sunlight before hanging back in Elvis's arms. The group continued on their way to Zacharias. Along the way Gu Mingming suddenly laughed. Elvis asked her what she was laughing at. Gu Mingming replied, "It seems that ever since I got together with you, I don't need to bring my legs out anymore." Elvis chuckled and kissed Gu Mingming on the cheek without saying a word. Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and asked, "Hubby, aren't you tired of hugging me all day? I feel like I've put on weight recently. It should be very heavy, right?" Elvis deeply remembered the scene when she threw a potato at him when he complimented her on being fat. Although it did not hurt, he could not bear to make her angry. But he had promised not to lie to her, and in reality she was indeed a little fatter than when she first arrived in the beast world. Pursing his lips, Elvis replied, "It is indeed a little heavy after all. I am carrying my entire world." Gu Mingming burst out laughing and kissed him on the cheek. "Hubby's mouth is so sweet." Elvis secretly heaved a sigh of relief in his heart, glad that he managed to muddle through. The place where they were taking shelter from the rain was not far from Zachariah's tribe. In addition, Gu Mingming was full of energy and the three little ones had already evolved into first-level orcs. Their speed and endurance had all improved, so they arrived at the stray beast camp on the second night. Out of topic. Chapter 955. Ever since Gu Mingming temporarily stayed in the cave that Elvis had stayed in before winter, no stray beasts dared to approach it. Perhaps it was because the Beast King aura that Gu Mingming had left behind was too frightening, or because of Cole's words. Anyway, when Elvis and Leah brought Gu Mingming back, the place was exactly the same as when they had left. The cooking utensils and bedding were the same and even their positions were the same. It was just that a layer of dust had accumulated and needed to be tidied up. Elvis and Leah were very satisfied that there was no other person's scent left in the cave. Elvis carried Gu Mingming and brought the three little ones to look for Peter and Natalie, while Leah stayed in the cave to clean up. And when they reached Natalie's cave, Gu Mingming was completely dumbfounded. Who could tell her what was going on with these 6 little ones? Her mother-in-law had given birth to a litter of cubs that were even younger than her sons. Hi. Gu Mingming suddenly felt a little awkward. How should she introduce her mother-in-law to her sons? Come, sons, this pregnant lady is your grandmother and these 6 little ones are your uncles. Be good, call them uncles. Imagining her sons who looked to be 17 or 18 years old, calling the little ones who had not weaned off milk uncle. The scene was so beautiful that Gu Mingming could not accept it. But they were already standing here and it would be inappropriate not to introduce them. Elvis seemed to have seen through Gu Mingming's thoughts, so he spoke for her. He pointed at his 3 sons and said, "Hada Jiaoyu Kanwu." Natalie's body was already weak to begin with, and coupled with the fact that she had just given birth, she looked like she was suffering from a serious illness. But she was still very happy to see Elvis and the 3 little ones. So she propped herself up and leaned against Peter's chest. She smiled and greeted the 3 little ones. "Hello, I am Natalie." "Hello." The 3 little ones greeted politely, but did not add on any form of address. Gu Mingming pursed her lips, not knowing how to express her current feelings. Elvis leaned close to her ear and whispered, "The concept of kinship in the beast world is different from your world. Here, kinship only extends to the generation of parents and children. This meant that Natalie and Peter were my beast father and beast mother, but to Huda and his brothers, they were just Natalie and Peter. So you don't have to worry about those complicated seniority and kinship relationships." Upon hearing Elvis's words, Gu Mingming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It was really a happy thing that she didn't have to let her son call Milk Bun uncle. Peter had no intention of greeting the 3 little ones. He could only see Natalie and the 6 milk buns. They were all his and Natalie's children, but his attitude towards these 6 little ones and Elvis's was worlds apart. Luckily, Elvis did not expect much from this familial love, or else he would definitely be very upset now. Gu Mingming teased her brother-in-law and felt that he was extremely cute. She wanted to hug him but was stopped by Elvis, who asked with a cold face, "Why, you want brothers to share the same wife?" The corner of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched. She pointed at the 3 milk buns that were not even the size of a palm and said, "Do you think I look like a pervert? When they grow up they will look like me." Elvis paused for a moment before continuing, "I haven't forgotten how you drooled over me when you first saw me." Out of topic. It's the last day of March and the monthly pass expires tomorrow. Chapter 956. Before Gu Mingming could retort, Natalie smiled and said, "If you like them you can choose one and bring them back to raise. You can mate them directly after they reach adulthood." Gu Mingming gave a dry laugh and said, Are you sure they have a chance of living to adulthood after I bring them back? Natalie was taken aback and didn't seem to understand what Gu Mingming meant. Elvis's face darkened and he said, "Only those who can survive from my hands have the right to become Xiaoming's partner." Elvis's words made Natalie nervous, not because of the milk bun but because of Elvis. She was afraid that Gu Mingming would hate Elvis for being so obviously jealous and obstructing females from taking in new partners. So the moment Elvis said that, Natalie immediately looked at Gu Mingming. She wanted to plead for mercy on Elvis's behalf, but her words got stuck in her throat when she saw Gu Mingming's smiling face. Gu Mingming held Elvis's face and kissed him. "My hubby looks so handsome when he's jealous." Elvis's frosty face cracked in an instant, revealing endless gentleness and doting. He tapped Gu Mingming's little nose and said, "I can be very handsome at other times too, so don't attract more love rivals for me." "I can't promise you that," Gu Mingming said proudly. "I am a natural-born beauty and I shine everywhere I go. I can't do anything about it when others want to stick to me the moment they see me." Looking at her smug look, Elvis felt helpless and at the same time very adorable. He pinched her little face and said, "It's all right, Leah, and I will strangle everyone who pounces on you to death one by one. Not a single one will be left alive." "Hubby, you are so violent, so bloody and so cruel. But I like it so much." Elvis cupped the back of her head and planted a kiss on her brow. "Didn't you say you have important matters to discuss with them? If you don't want to say it, let's go back. Leah must be anxious waiting for us." "Say it, say it." Gu Mingming snapped out of her shock at the fact that her brother-in-law was younger than her son. She looked at Peter and said, "I want to go to Zachariah's tribe to retrieve some things. I want to arrange for my son to stay here temporarily. Can you help me take care of him?" Peter didn't speak, but Natalie smiled and nodded. "No problem, I will keep an eye on them. I will fight to the death with whoever dares to harm a single strand of their hair." Now that Natalie had put it that way, Peter had no way out. No matter what, he couldn't let Natalie fight for her life, could he? Then he could only protect her. Gu Mingming grinned at Natalie. "Thank you." Natalie nodded at Gu Mingming, then turned to look at Peter. "I think I heard you mention the Zacharias tribe before. Are you familiar with it?" Peter nodded and said, "It is adjacent to my territory and we often fight. Their leader, Reynold, is an iron-fisted person. Although he's only at level 4, he's a difficult opponent. That's why I've tried my best not to provoke them all these years. It's not that I can't beat them, but it's too troublesome to deal with the aftermath." Peter looked at Gu Mingming, then at Natalie. He sighed and said, "I know why you want to go to Zacharias. I will accompany you." "Gu Mingming?" Peter said, "You saved Natalie. I owe you my life. I have to repay you eventually, so there's no need to drag it out for too long." Chapter 957. But before Gu Mingming could open her mouth, Natalie interrupted. "Just let him go with you. He has more dealings with the Zacharias tribe. It will be more convenient with him around." Gu Mingming thought about it and agreed. After all, a powerful dragon could not suppress a local snake. And Peter was clearly the most powerful local snake in this area. With him around, Leonard would have to think twice before trying anything funny. Offending both the messenger of the beast deity and the stray beasts at the same time was equivalent to going up against the strongest forces in both the black and white worlds. Would a mere Zacharias tribe have the ability to handle 2 battlefields? Nodding, Gu Mingming said, "Then I will have to trouble you." Peter didn't say anything else and Elvis couldn't be bothered to waste his breath on them. Hence, he carried Gu Mingming and brought the 3 little ones back to their own cave. Due to the heavy rain, they had been delayed for a long time. Hence, Gu Mingming and the rest didn't spend too much time resting and set off for Zacharias the next morning. The stray beast's main camp was not far from Zacharias. Hence, before noon, Gu Mingming, Elvis, Leah, Wabi-I and Peter had already reached the borders of Zacharias tribe's territory. Perhaps it was because they had fought with stray beasts for many years, but Zacharias' sense of territory was much more obvious than St. Nazir's or even Sauter's. They had purposely left an empty strip of land in the middle of the forest. It was about 2 meters of empty soil without any trees or flowers. Gu Mingming and the rest stood on one side of the strip, while the other side was patrolling orcs. Their patrols were not chaotic and unobstructed, nor were they independent. Instead, they were coordinated and interconnected. Gu Mingming glanced over and smiled softly. This formation gave off the feeling of an ancient army camp. It was just that all the knives, spears, swords and halberds had been replaced with sharp claws and fangs. She took a step forward and stepped into the strip of land. The alarmed beast stepped forward to block Gu Mingming. Perhaps they had never seen Gu Mingming before, but Gu Mingming's looks made her stand out. Coupled with Elvis and Leah, one in black and one in white, this iconic combination had already revealed their identities. Moreover, a fifth-grade snake beast, could there be a second one in this world? Gu Mingming's eyes were full of smiles. She placed her elbow on Elvis's shoulder and rested her chin on her palm. Using the fact that Elvis was hugging her, she was able to look down at the males from a higher position. Her lips curved into a playful smile as she said, "Your tribe leader invited me over just to give me the cold shoulder?" The person who stopped her bowed to Gu Mingming and said, "The great messenger can enter any time but others cannot." Gu Mingming raised her eyebrows and said, "Ha, ever since I came to the beast world, this is the first time someone dares to set rules for me. Please forgive us, Lord Emissary." The beastman guard said, but he did not move half a step away. He had no intention of retreating. Gu Mingming seemed to understand what Peter meant when he said offending Zacharias was a very troublesome matter. Looking at the 5 people on his side, there was a messenger of the beast deity with the strength of a beast king, 3 fifth-level beasts and 1 fourth-level beast. Who wouldn't get cramps after seeing such a lineup? However, a mere guard was able to stop them in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. It could be seen how well-trained he was and how strict his military orders were. Chapter 958. The guard didn't say a word and just stood there, flashing his sharp claws. Gu Mingming raised her brows and asked with a smile, "You think you can stop me?" The guard shook his head honestly and said, "Just us alone can't stop any one of you. You clearly know you can't stop me, yet you still want to flash your claws in front of me?" Gu Mingming asked. The guard still nodded and said, "Our duty is to guard this place. Unless we die, we will definitely not allow outsiders to step into the tribe." Gu Mingming chuckled and pointed at her nose, saying, "But I am also an outsider, why can I go in?" The guard still stood there like a soldier and looked at Gu Mingming as he replied, "The great messenger represents the beast deity. All the tribes in the beast world are your tribes and all the orcs are your people. So you can enter and leave as you wish and are not considered an outsider." Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Oh, so I am of the privileged class." The guard didn't know what the privileged class was and so didn't reply and just stood there. Gu Mingming waved her hands and said, "I don't want to make things difficult for you. The person who went to report the news should be back soon, right? Let's wait for Leonard to come back first." Every tribe had its own rules. Although no one could stop her if she barged in, Gu Mingming felt that there was no need to bully the weak. Moreover, among the few masters around her, other than Peter, the other 3 could not bear to see her suffer any grievances. Now that she had been slighted at the gates of Zacharias, all she had to do was give the word and these guards would be beaten to a pulp. They were just doing their duty and there was no need to be so ruthless. Fortunately, Leonard and Nick quickly came out to welcome her. When they saw Gu Mingming, they immediately bowed and apologized, saying, "Great messenger, please forgive us." It was Leonard who made the wrong arrangements and slighted the great messenger. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, "No matter then, can we go in now?" Leonard looked up at Gu Mingming and said, "Great messenger and your partners can enter Zacharias, but stray beasts cannot. As long as one of us in Zacharias is still breathing, we will not allow stray beasts to step into our territory." Gu Mingming raised her brows and laughed coldly, saying, "You mean if we all want to go in, we have to exterminate your tribe?" "Yes," Reynolds answered honestly. Gu Mingming was still smiling. She looked at everyone on her side, then at Leonard. "Then how long do you think it will take for us to exterminate your tribe?" Reynolds was very clear about the battle strength of his tribe, and the opponent's strength was right in front of him. After a moment of consideration, Reynolds said, "Half a day." Gu Mingming asked, "Which is more important, your principles or Zacharias' half a day of life?" Reynolds paused for a moment. When he raised his head again, he was extremely determined. Principles are principles. Nothing can be accomplished without rules. We would rather die in battle than let the stray beasts touch our tribe. Chapter 959. In fact, Wabiai had the ability to do so. Apart from Gu Mingming, no one else in the beast world could suppress Wabiai. Even if they were both 5th-level warriors, Elvis might be able to severely injure Wabiai if he fought with all his might, but he would not be able to kill him. Gu Mingming waved her hands. "Little shit, calm down. I promised to bring you out to play. Why would I abandon you? Am I such a disloyal person? Isn't that so?" Although Wabiai was unwilling, He still nodded and admitted that Gu Mengmeng was a loyal person. Gu Mengmeng comforted Wabiai, then looked at Leonard. Since it is not convenient for my friend to enter Zacharias, we do not have to. Just tell me the location of the soul of the forest here and we will head there directly. This. Leonard seemed to be in a difficult position, as if he had something he could not say. Gu Mengmeng was in no hurry to rush him. She just nestled in Elvis's arms and looked at him, waiting for him to speak. Leonard. A sweet voice floated over from afar. Gu Mengmeng clearly saw Leonard's expression change. He immediately turned his head and curled the corners of his lips out of reflex. He did not look like the iron-fisted person he had been a moment ago. Looking towards the direction of the voice, she saw a female sitting on the back of a tiger. 4 males stood by her side, each holding onto the 4 horns of an unknown beast's hide to shield her from the sun. And the female sitting on the back of the tiger was different from ordinary females on land. She was a very beautiful female. Her long curly hair floated casually in the wind and her exquisite features were as beautiful as a porcelain doll's. This female gave Gu Mengmeng a sense of déjà vu. She could not tell who she looked like, but her aura was a little like Melinda? However, Melinda's eyes were clearer than hers, unlike Melinda's eyes which were full of flirtatiousness. Gu Mengmeng had seen the hide she was wearing before. It was the skin of a white fox. Leah had hunted it for her in the past. She felt awkward wearing it, as if she was wearing Lee's skin. She had never worn it again. Leah knew she did not like it and did not hunt any more white fox skins for her. But Gu Mengmeng knew that white foxes were rare and very cunning. Not to mention hunting them, even finding them depended on luck and ability. Many females felt proud of having a piece of white fox fur, feeling that they were a cut above others. Looking at Reynolds' attitude toward her, he didn't even have to guess to know what their relationship was. Dora, why did you come out? Reynolds walked towards the female but stopped a step away. It was as if he was afraid that his clumsy hands would hurt her. Dora smiled warmly and pointed at the group standing on the barricade. The messenger and her partners are our invited guests. Although Wabiai is a stray beast, he is also a representative of the Snake King Valley. Since he has the intention to reconcile, how can we block them outside? Hurry up and let everyone in, don't neglect the guests. But? Reynolds frowned, as if he was very hesitant. He did not look like he was facing death calmly when he rejected Gu Mengmeng. He was clearly wavering. Dora gently placed her hand on her abdomen. She looked up at Reynolds with watery eyes. The messenger is the daughter of the mighty beast deity. If she pleads for me, perhaps the mighty beast deity will forgive me. Then I will have the chance to get pregnant and give birth to your cubs. Don't you want a child that belongs to us? I beg you, all right? Chapter 960. Dora? Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and looked at Wabiai. If I remember correctly, the female mermaid who tried to harm Melinda in the ocean was called Dora. Wabiai nodded. Seems like it. Gu Mengmeng smiled. Do you think it is her? Wabiai shrugged. It makes no difference whether I love her or not. That's true. Gu Mengmeng didn't want to dwell on this issue. She just treated it as a casual conversation and didn't take it to heart. Leonard returned to Gu Mengmeng and bowed to her. Then he gestured for her to enter. Great messenger, this way please. Gu Mengmeng nodded but didn't reply. The group walked to the center of the tribe and saw a towering pagoda made of logs. It was stained with a thick layer of blood, which gave off a dim glow under the sunlight and emitted a fishy smell. Gu Mengmeng frowned. She pointed at the pagoda. This is a female who just came of age? Leonard nodded. Yes, there is a female in the tribe who just came of age last night. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists as she thought of the so-called campfire party that Elvis and Leah had prepared for her. Her temples throbbed. She must find a chance to get rid of this custom. It was too unacceptable to others. Wabiai and Peter didn't know what Gu Mengmeng thought of the pagoda. But Elvis and Leah knew that it was an eyesore to Gu Mengmeng. They exchanged glances and didn't mention the pagoda. Instead, it was Leah who stepped forward and sized up Dora, who was sitting on the white tiger. You're Dora? Leah had a formal smile on his face. The curvature of his lips looked as if he had practiced it thousands of times, accurately presenting a distant yet polite smile on his face. Males were always on their guard against other males approaching their females, even if the other party was a mated orc. Moreover, Leah was just too good-looking. Leonard couldn't ignore the surprise in Dora's eyes when she saw him. They were both fourth-level orcs. Leonard stepped forward to stand between Dora and Leah, but Leah just smiled. He covered his lips and looked at Leonard with raised brows. Are you guarding against me? Reynold neither admitted nor denied it. He just stood there motionlessly. Laughing softly, Leah took a step back lazily. You don't have to do this. I don't fancy her. Leonard knew that she was the messenger of the beast deity and acknowledged her beauty. However, he still felt very uncomfortable when his own female was described as not good enough for me. He wanted to retort but could not find the right words. He clenched his fists and had the urge to fight Leah. The great emissary is the daughter of the beast god. Naturally, she is the best in the world. Dora tugged on Leonard's arm gently and extinguished the fire in Leonard's chest with just a glance. She then continued, Lord Leah is the male of the messenger, so he naturally would not be interested in a lowly female like Dora. Leonard didn't mean anything else, please don't take offense. You are not lowly. Reynold clenched his fists and frowned at Dora. His face was full of heartache. Chapter 961. Leah could not be bothered with their flirting. He just waved his tail and said, I went to the seaside previously and heard that there was a female mermaid named Dora. Leah dragged out his last word as his gaze landed on Dora. He did not finish his sentence, but it was obvious that he was inquiring. Dora did not avoid it. She nodded and said, I think the Dora that Lord Leah heard about should be me. Oh, not necessarily? I heard that Dora stole a treasure from the giant fish tribe and even framed her own tribe's princess. I heard that she was imprisoned as a tribe slave. Lee's every word agitated Leonard's nerves. Chuckling, Lee's gaze swept across Leonard's flushed face and he cursed silently, let's see how long you can hold it in. Yes, I was sold as a tribe slave. Dora's little hand held onto Leonard's arm and she said, Leonard bought me and brought me back here. Oh, so it really is you. You really live up to the word lowly. Leah purposely poked at Leonard's heart and said in a seemingly nonchalant manner, You. Leonard wanted to explode, but he only managed to say one word before he was interrupted by Lee's next words. Only females who commit grave mistakes will be imprisoned as tribe slaves. I guess you must have suffered a lot before you were brought back here? Leah looked at the dense mating marks on Dora's body and chuckled. Do you want to wash these clean? Dora's eyes widened and she looked at Leah with an urgent gaze. Leonard said, You have a way? His heart ached for Dora, who felt inferior because of the countless mating marks on her body. Those nightmarish days tormented her every moment and he wanted to free her from them. Leah nodded and chuckled. Defeat me and I will tell you. Leonard had been wanting Leah since the beginning. How could he hesitate after hearing him say that? He did not even maintain his human form and immediately transformed into a white tiger to pounce on Leah. Leah had received professional training in solder and had learned how to fight stray beasts during his days wandering outside. In addition to the many years of battle experience he had accumulated from cooperating with Elvis, he was able to handle beasts of the same level with ease. As for Leonard's attacks, they were ferocious but not skillful enough. He was often misled by Leah into making wrong judgments. For example, the claws that slapped the wooden pagoda, dong, gudong gudong, a log rolled down and the wooden tower that lost its balance collapsed in an instant. Leah dodged nimbly but Leonard was stunned for a second and a half. Just that 1.5 seconds made him lose the upper hand and look very pathetic. In the end, he was even struck in the waist by a log and lay on the ground for a long time before he could stand up. Leah returned to Gu Mingming's side and rested his arm on Elvis's shoulder. His furry tail landed in Gu Mingming's arms. His long and affectionate eyes were filled with slyness as he said, I say tribe leader Leonard, no matter how anxious you are to find a prescription for her, you shouldn't have toppled the bonfire wooden pagoda used for her coming-of-age ceremony. How inauspicious. TSK, aren't you going to call someone over to tidy up this place? Those who don't know better would think that we have entered some abandoned tribe. It's a wasteland full of ruins. Chapter 962. With a look from Leonard, Nick hurriedly arranged for men to move the scattered logs away. But Leah acted like nothing had happened as he hooked Gu Mingming's chin with a fawning smile. He didn't say anything and just smiled. Gu Mingming knew that he didn't want to see her in a bad mood because of that wooden pagoda. She chuckled. This is someone else's territory after all. Leah looked at Elvis and didn't reply. Elvis said in a low voice, half a day he said too much. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in confusion. Leah explained kindly, destroy Zacharias and turn this place into our territory. If it was just me and Elvis, it would indeed take half a day. But if he is included, haha. Leah pointed at Wabiai, who tilted his head lazily. He looked at Gu Mingming and asked, "Do we destroy them?" Gu Mingming guaranteed that as long as she nodded or smiled, Wabiai would sweep through the entire Zacharias like a wild horse. He just had to transform into his original form and roll around on the ground. Then there would be nothing left but pancakes, the kind with no skin and only meat. Gu Mingming stretched out her hand. "Calm down, everyone, calm down." Wabiai looked disappointed. "Can't we fight? Tsk, so boring." Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. She turned back to look at Leah. "We are here for official business." Leah shrugged. "Expanding the tribe's territory is also official business." Gu Mingming facepalmed. She wasn't used to the beast world style of snatching anything they liked. In order not to cause any more trouble, Gu Mingming dusted off her hands and looked at Leonard. "Sorry, the males in my family don't have good tempers. So you better get straight to the point. Where is the soul of the forest? Then we will set off. Otherwise they won't be able to control themselves and really flatten your territory." Leonard wanted to retort that Zacharias was a powerful tribe and wouldn't be defeated so easily. But after exchanging blows with Leah, he clearly realized that he had overestimated himself by saying half a day. Leah was the weakest in the entire team. He was clearly of the same level as him, but he had been fooled by him. Peter was the leader of the stray beast. The 5th-level beasts in Zacharias had fought with him many times, but there were very few times where they had the upper hand. Elvis had always been known for his ruthlessness. Back then, when he was only a 4th level, he led his tribesmen to battle with 3 5th-level beasts from Sodder. Not only did he level up during the battle, he even defeated them completely, causing 2 of Sodder's original 3 5th-level beasts to die and 1 to be crippled. As for that Wabiai, he was a myth and legend second only to Snake, so it was impossible to predict how strong he was. All he knew was that his legs were trembling uncontrollably just by looking into his eyes. Even though he was used to pretending to be calm, this pretense might be able to fool others, but it was impossible to fool himself. However, the strongest battle power was not these 4 perverted males, but the little female who was always smiling in Elvis's arms. Being unfathomable was the most terrifying thing. Fear, he was truly afraid. However, he had a reason not to retreat. Chapter 963. Gu Mingming chuckled and propped her chin on one hand. Instead of answering, she asked, "Are you in a position to negotiate with me now?" Yes, he didn't seem to have any bargaining chips to negotiate with Gu Mingming. Zacharias had taken in the tribesmen who had ambushed the Snake King Valley. Wabiai was the new leader of the Snake King Valley and an unrestrained stray beast. It was only natural for him to wipe out Zacharias today. Moreover, in the beast world, power was the law. Not to mention that he was in the right now. Even if he wasn't, who would dare to criticize him for destroying Zacharias on a whim? Clenching his fists, Leonard put on a determined look. "If the great messenger doesn't agree, I would rather the entire Zacharias tribe be slaughtered than tell you the location of the soul of the forest." Gu Mingming twitched her lips. "I thought you were a good tribe leader. So you are someone who can abandon your tribe and tribesmen for your own selfish reasons." "Ah, that's true. Every man for himself will be destroyed. But I am still traumatized by your threats. So I am very dissatisfied with your attitude when negotiating with me." Before Gu Mingming finished her sentence, Peter had already grabbed Dora by the neck. The speed of a 5th-level orc was not something that the 2nd-level beast skin umbrellas beside Dora could see clearly. Even a 4th-level beast like Leonard couldn't react in time. Looking at Dora's flushed face, Leonard clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. "Dora, don't be afraid. Once I settle down my tribesmen, I will come and accompany you." "Does that mean you can die in peace?" Gu Mingming raised her brows and looked at Leonard as if he was a heartless man. How should she put it? Ever since she came to the beast world, most of the males she had seen were the type who valued females more than anything else. Let's put it this way. If someone grabbed her by the neck, even if Elvis and Leah had to personally slaughter Saint Nazir, they wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Even if the so-called slaughter included the 2 of them, as long as it could be exchanged for her safety, these 2 idiots would slice themselves into mutton slices, the kind that could be used in a hot pot. Snake even did this personally just to prevent her from suffering the pain of the poison, just to protect her pair of legs. He actually cut open his own chest and dug out his own snake gallbladder for her. But Leonard, his eyes were about to bleed. It was clear that he didn't care. "Ha, I can endure it, but not normal people." Gu Mingming gave Peter a look and he loosened his grip on Dora's neck slightly, allowing her to breathe. "Reynold." Dora called out softly with a sobbing tone. Leonard didn't dare to move, afraid that he would agitate Peter into snapping Dora's neck. He could only turn to look at Gu Mengmeng. Great Messenger, no matter what, Dora is a precious female. Please don't hurt her. I promised to use the soul of the forest in exchange for letting bygones be bygones, but now I've suddenly added conditions. It's my fault. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can vent it directly on me. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Leonard, I respect you as a man and will give you a chance. Tell me, what are the conditions you want to discuss with me? The veins on Leonard's arm were about to burst. Gu Mengmeng knew that he must really want to fight Peter to save Dora. But he also knew that it was wishful thinking for him to save Dora under such circumstances. So he endured. Out of topic. Well, today's update is over. Chapter 964. Leonard stood up and looked at Gu Mengmeng. First, Great Messenger, please accept all the tribesmen of Zacharias, including the former tribesmen who ambushed the Snake King Valley. Let them become members of Saint Nazir and be protected by the Great Messenger. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. You mean to disband Zacharias? Reynold took a deep breath and replied, Yes, I am. Without the soul of the forest, Zacharias has no meaning to exist. Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and remained silent for a moment. Instead of answering Leonard, she asked, Since that's the case, why did you raise this condition in the first place? Leonard knew he couldn't hide it from her and he didn't want to either. The stray beast Cole once threatened me. If I didn't do as he said, he would destroy the entire tribe of Zacharias. Cole again? What did he threaten you with? Gu Mengmeng asked in a seemingly nonchalant manner. Leonard frowned. He couldn't help feeling humiliated at the thought of being threatened by a stray beast. But in order to seek protection for his tribesmen, he had to be honest no matter how humiliating it was. So he suppressed his rising and falling chest and said, He asked me to accept a portion of the tribesmen without a tribe, then go to Sodor to seek peace with you in exchange for the soul of the forest. He also promised that as long as I can do these two things, Zacharias will not be attacked by stray beasts for 100 years and can rest. Since you have already done what he asked of you, why not enjoy this 100 years of peace? Gu Mengmeng asked. Leonard answered without hiding anything. I don't trust the words of the stray beasts. I am more willing to hand the tribe over to the Great Messenger. Firstly, after you obtain the soul of the forest, we will also be protecting the soul of the forest by staying by your side. Secondly, I can't let my tribesmen live under the whims of the stray beasts. Gu Mengmeng nodded, agreeing to the first condition. Then she asked, What is the second condition? Leonard said, When the Great Messenger goes to retrieve the soul of the forest, please bring me along. I want to know what the thing that Zacharias has been protecting for thousands of years looks like. Gu Mengmeng nodded and agreed. And the third condition? Only then did Leonard turn around and look at Dora. His eyes were filled with pity as he said, Lord Messenger, please pardon Dora and cleanse her of the humiliation. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and said with a troubled expression, What if I don't agree? Reynold clenched his teeth, clenched his fists and said, As long as Lord Emissary is willing to agree to these three conditions, I, Reynold, will be Lord Emissary's dog in the future. If the Lord Emissary doesn't agree, then Zacharias would rather die than live in dishonor. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, You really know how to talk nonsense. Unfortunately, I really can't agree to the third condition because I can't do it at all. Leonard was stunned and his gaze shifted to Leah. He had originally wanted Gu Mengmeng to agree to the first two conditions, but because Leah had brought this up, he added the third condition at the last minute. But now the messenger of the beast deity said she could not do it? Leah caressed Gu Mengmeng's little hand and kissed it. You don't have to look at me. If my Mengmeng says I can't do it, then I can't. Even if I can, I won't do it. Digression. Today he had wanted to write Grand Finale in the title. Come on. But after thinking about it, he decided against it. Such a joke might cause the brakes to malfunction and cause my little baby to fall. Chapter 965. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in surprise. You can do it? Leah hesitated for a moment and didn't reply. He just smiled at Gu Mengmeng. Do you wish for me to do it or not? That meant he could do it. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and pinched Lee's arm lightly. She then turned to Leonard. All right, I agree to your three conditions. Gu Mengmeng had just finished her sentence and before Leonard could say his thanks, Dora, who had been silent all this while, struggled to speak. Wait. Her voice was dry and suffocating from Peter's grip on her neck. Gu Mingming waved her hands. Peter walked back to Gu Mingming's side as if nothing had happened. After regaining her freedom, Dora lay on the white tiger's back, panting heavily. After a long while, she finally looked up at Gu Mingming. I want to change the third condition. Gu Mingming lifted her chin at Dora. To be honest, Gu Mingming didn't have a good impression of Dora. The reason was simple. Gu Mingming liked Melinda. She hated anyone who bullied Melinda. But hating someone didn't mean she had to kill them. As long as they didn't come looking for trouble, Gu Mingming could turn a blind eye to them most of the time. But since she had spoken, Gu Mingming wanted to hear what kind of wish Dora, who had suggested Carter to imprison Melinda, would wish for. Hence, Gu Mingming said without any emotion, tell me. Because Peter had just strangled Dora, her eyeballs were popping out. The red mark on her neck was so obvious that Peter really didn't have a shred of pity for any other female. But Dora didn't seem to care. I want a male. Give him to me. Damn. Gu Mingming rubbed her chin. In any case, she could be considered as a beautiful flower, right? Did she look like a human trafficker? Lady, I'm sorry. I don't do human trafficking. Gu Mingming laughed coldly. Leonard frowned. His eyes, which had been bloodshot from worry and anger, were now filled with desolation and sorrow. He stood rooted to the spot and stared at Dora. He asked in a trembling voice, You still can't let him go, right? Dora turned back and bit her lip. I will never be able to let go of him. You obviously know. Reynolds sighed and smiled bitterly. I know. Reynolds was a strong and imposing man, but in that instant, it was as if a mountain had collapsed. He looked dispirited and a little pathetic. He clenched his fists and slowly unclenched them. He gently held Dora's shoulders and said, Let the messenger help you wash these off first. Then I will go and capture him for you. You're so beautiful, so good, he won't refuse you. Duola's eyes were red. She had not cried even when she was almost strangled to death, but now she was crying her eyes out. She said, You know it's impossible, don't you? I have always left the position of first partner for him, but he has never looked back at me. Now that I'm dirty, he won't like me even more. Even so, you still want him? Leonard asked as he wiped away her tears. Yes. Dora gritted her teeth and said, Even if my body is filthy now, I still left this spot on my chest for him, didn't I? I want him, I must have him. Even if he doesn't love me, even if he hates me, even if I have to imprison him to keep him by my side, I still want him. Even if he dies, his corpse can only be mine. Digression, I like you. Ha, don't let your imagination run wild. That's why the first sentence is fake. Of course, the second sentence is also fake. Chapter 966. Dora tugged at her collar. Only then did Gu Mingming realize that although her body was covered in dense layers of marks, only her chest was empty. It looked like she was really determined to give it to someone. But, even if she had to imprison him, even if he died, his corpse would still be hers. Why did these words sound so creepy? Gu Mingming had thought that in the beast world only males would have such a perverted view of love, and females would not be like that. It seemed like she was wrong. Leonard, I beg you, just let me be willful this once. I will only be willful this once in my entire life. Dora cried as she threw herself into Leonard's arms, her heart throbbing painfully. Leonard finally couldn't bear to reject her. He looked up at Gu Mingming and said, Messenger, please grant me my wish and give that person to her. Gu Mingming naturally wouldn't trade someone else's life. She was just a little curious, so she asked, The male you want is? Fei Rui. Dora said the name word by word, her voice trembling. Fei Rui? Gu Mingming chuckled and said, I'm sorry, Fei Rui, cannot be given to you. What? Why not? Dora was very agitated. Her eyes widened to almost twice their original size. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, Because, in exchange for saving his sister, he gave himself to me. He is now in Saint Nazaire, waiting for me to mate with him when I am in a good mood. How can I give my male to you? Dora's body went limp and she collapsed into Leonard's arms, muttering to herself, How could this be? How could this be? Gu Mingming clapped her hands and said, What should I do? I can't seem to fulfill your 3 conditions. So you are not going to give me the soul of the forest? Then I will be leaving. With that, Gu Mingming patted Elvis's shoulder. Elvis turned to leave without any hesitation. Wait. Leonard called out to Gu Mingming and said, Since Fei Rui is the great messenger's male, we naturally don't dare to covet him. Then, Great Messenger, please abide by the first 3 conditions. He had to leave a way out for the tribesmen of Zacharias. Gu Mingming looked at Leah and he whispered into her ear, "Let me eat fish when we go back and I will wash the filth off her body." Gu Mingming knew that the fish Leah mentioned was definitely referring to a certain mermaid, but now was not the time to explain. She cupped Lee's face and kissed him, saying, "We'll talk about it when we get back." Leah did not reject her. He just walked to Dora's side and sized her up. "From tomorrow onwards, collect the dew on the leaves before sunrise and fill 2 stone bowls. Place the water bowl on the platform of the deity's punishment in your tribe. When we get the soul of the forest back, I will open the altar and offer it to the heavens to wash away her filth." Leonard nodded, then supported the sobbing Dora with both hands and said, "Good girl, don't be sad. Go back with them first and have a good sleep. No matter how long you need to forget him, I will wait with you." Dora didn't say anything. She didn't even give Leonard any reaction. She just let the tiger carry her as they walked back. After walking for a distance, Dora gripped the tiger's fur tightly. Her eyes were filled with venom and viciousness. Chapter 967. On the other side, after Leonard watched Dora leave, he instructed Witch Dr. Nick on a few matters regarding the tribe's management. Then he came before Gu Mingming and bowed. "All right, mighty messengers, we can set off now." Gu Mingming nodded without saying a word. She let Leonard lead the way while Gu Mingming and the rest followed behind him. Gu Mingming didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Leonard was leading them in circles around the Zacharias tribe. But every circle seemed a little different. Could it be that lonely old man from her family had set up a diversion? Gu Mingming had her suspicions but didn't voice them out. After walking for half a day, the moon was already high up in the sky and the stars were few and far between. Leonard finally stopped and said, "It's here. But we can only see the entrance tomorrow morning." Gu Mingming nodded as a reply. Leonard said, "The terrain here is a little complicated. Don't move around recklessly. I will go hunting." Without waiting for Gu Mingming to respond, Leonard had already left. Peter was still worried about him, so after giving Elvis a look, he followed Leonard away in the name of helping. After the 2 of them left, Elvis and Leah, who had been holding back the entire journey, finally exploded. Elvis pinched Gu Mingming's waist and said with a serious expression, "You've already thought it through? Find a time to mate after returning to St. Nazir? Mm? No. Gu Mingming waved her hands in denial. Leah opened his mouth and bit Gu Mingming's left ear. He used a little force, leaving a bite mark but not breaking the skin. His long and narrow eyes were filled with jealousy as he said, "I knew you were interested in that fellow. Back then, when he hurt my face, not only did you not blame him, you even protected him and blamed me for blocking the well with a rock to prevent him from coming out. What? Now you don't like my face anymore? You've changed your preferences. Do you care about that bland and inexperienced fellow now?" No. Gu Mingming shook her head. Elvis pinched Gu Mingming's chin. His deep blue eyes were filled with an unfathomable depth. His voice was low and filled with a murderous aura. "You didn't give me or Leah the position of your heart. Are you going to give it to him?" Gu Mingming looked at Elvis. No, Leah said, I remember that you said you liked his eyes and said they were like bright stars. Since you like it, how about I dig it out and give it to you? If you take the eyes, don't like him anymore." Gu Mingming facepalmed. "Calm down, can you listen to my explanation?" Elvis and Leah kept their mouths shut, the words "please start your performance" clearly written on their faces. Gu Mingming was already mentally prepared. From the moment she said those words in front of Duo La, she knew that she would definitely upset the 2 big vinegar vats in the house. Hence, she did not panic and just said, "I don't like Fei Rui and Fei Rui has no such intentions towards me. The only reason I said that was because I couldn't bear to see Fei Rui, who was a good cabbage, be taken away by Dora. How about this, once we return to St. Nazir, I will chase Fei Rui back into the sea. If he doesn't scram, I will personally make him into sweet and sour fish slices. How about that?" Actually, Elvis and Leah knew that there was nothing going on between Gu Mingming and Fei Rui. Chapter 968. But knowing was one thing. Hearing Gu Mingming admit that another male belonged to her still made Elvis and Leah feel disgusted. Gu Mingming also knew this, but she couldn't think of a better reason to reject Dora, so she just said it casually. It was precisely because she really didn't have any other feelings for Fei Rui that she dared to say such things in front of Elvis and Leah. If she liked Fei Rui even a little, she would definitely not say it in front of them. She would just extinguish the little flame in her heart as soon as possible. But luckily she was already very satisfied with Elvis and Leah, and no longer had any strange thoughts about other males. Gu Mingming coaxed Elvis and Leah for a long time with her honeyed words, and even promised repeatedly that she would never admit another male as hers, before they reluctantly let her off. But Leah gently hooked Gu Mingming's chin and said, "Mingming, although what you said today was not true, it is true that I am upset. You clearly promised me that I would be your last partner, but you don't care about my feelings and even said in front of everyone that you want to take Fei Rui. My heart, it hurts so much." "I care, how can I not care about your feelings?" Gu Mingming caressed Li's chest with her little hand. But Leah didn't buy it. He tilted his head and said, "If you care about everything with your mouth, what about mute people?" "Gu Mingming," Leah inched forward and said, "If you love me, do it for me to see?" "Mm-mm." Gu Mingming thought for a moment, then stretched out her two little hands to form a heart. Li's hand held onto Gu Mingming's little arm gently. Then the two fingers of his other hand were like the two legs of a little person, walking along Gu Mingming's wrist step by step. That pair of long and narrow eyes followed his fingers all the way up, past her smooth shoulders, across her fair neck, and then gently caressing her cheeks. Finally their gazes met and he said, "You know very well that I'm not talking about this, right?" Gu Mingming was completely stunned. They had been partners for more than a year, how could she not know what Leah was hinting at? "That, let's talk about it when we return to Saint Nazir after obtaining the soul of the forest. This is the wilderness." Leah looked down and said, "You and Elvis only did it once in the wilderness, why can't you do it with me?" Yes, she and Elvis did do it once on the way to the beauty pageant. But now Gu Mingming still couldn't stop blushing. Shaking his head, he decisively refused. No, we still have business tomorrow morning. We have to conserve our strength." "Leah, are you doubting my stamina?" Gu Mingming was stunned. Every time that happened, it would only end after she fainted. She had never seen where Leah and Elvis's stamina was at. Shi Ling Yang and Miet Mingming got it. By the time she finished speaking, Leonard and Peter had already returned with their prey. Gu Mingming used her eyes to plead for mercy. Leah ground his teeth. "Promise us that you will compensate us after we return to Saint Nazir." Gu Mingming hurriedly agreed and this matter was finally over. Chapter 969. What made Gu Mingming completely sober was the strange scene that appeared in front of her. The trees on both sides were intertwining at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if many pairs of hands were intertwining above their heads, forming a shady archway. The door was filled with white mist, giving off a familiar feeling. Gu Mingming narrowed her eyes and thought to herself, could it be that she would see her lonely old man sitting on the long bench watching television if she walked in through this door? Filled with doubts, Elvis had already carried Gu Mingming into the arched door. The fog blocked their vision and even if Gu Mingming was in Elvis's arms, she could not even see his face, let alone others. "Hobby." Gu Mingming tried calling out. Elvis instinctively tightened his grip on Gu Mingming's hand, his voice echoing just inches away from her. "Yeah, I'm here." Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and called again, "Leah?" A hand accurately held onto Gu Mingming's arm and a gentle voice soothed Gu Mingming's uneasiness. "I'm here too." Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief and shouted again, "Where are the others? Are they all here?" After receiving Wabi, Peter and Leonard's replies, Gu Mingming felt much more at ease. As he walked into the depths of the white fog, he could only rely on his body's senses to blindly confirm that he was heading inwards. Everywhere was a vast expanse of whiteness, and he couldn't tell the direction at all. Perhaps this was all thanks to the lonely old man in her family. Every time she went to see him, there would always be this white fog. After a few times she had gotten used to it. Otherwise she would be even more uneasy now. Clattering sounds came from all directions. They were very soft and hard to distinguish. Gu Mingming's hearing was very good now, and with Snake's 1,000 years of memories, there should be nothing in the beast world that she could not distinguish. But she had no impression of this voice at all. "Leonard, how much do you know about the soul of the forest?" "Reynold, what the patriarch has passed down from generation to generation is that there is only one entrance. Our clansmen have never been here before." In other words, he only knew how to find the entrance. He didn't have much more information than Lin Li. Damn, he really brought a spectator in. "Xiaoming, why don't we guard you while you take a nap?" Elvis asked. Gu Mingming knew that Elvis meant for her to look for the beast deity to ask if there was any way to solve this white fog, so she directly replied, I asked the last time and my father said that I am capable enough to deal with this problem. The deeper they went into the white fog, the clearer the rattling sound became. It also became sharper, as if it was issuing some sort of warning. Leah and Leonard were the first to have trouble breathing, but as they were separated by the white fog, Gu Mingming didn't notice anything wrong with them. It was only until her left ear started to hurt that she instinctively asked, Leah, what's wrong with you? Leah shook his head, trying to pretend that nothing had happened. Leah? Gu Mingming questioned. Leah then recalled that they could not see each other in the white fog, so Gu Mingming naturally could not see him shaking his head. He wanted to tell her that he was fine. But when he opened his mouth, no words came out. Chapter 970. Leah could not say a word. The suffocating feeling was as if someone was squeezing his throat and stuffing countless cotton balls into his lungs. But he did not want Gu Mingming to worry, so he just squeezed her wrist forcefully to indicate that he was still alive. Gu Mingming closed her eyes and held Li's face based on her feelings. Then she planted a deep kiss on Li's lips. Then, Leah felt as if the blockage in his throat had been opened up. The cotton balls in his lungs also gradually melted away like cotton candy in contact with water, leaving only traces of sweetness spreading in his chest. After a long while, Leah let go of Gu Mingming. His lips moved up and landed lightly on her forehead. Then he said in a gentle voice, I'm fine, don't worry. The dull pain in her ears disappeared. Coupled with Li's calm tone, Gu Mingming finally relaxed. Wabiai's voice came from the white fog. One fainted. I don't know who it is. I picked him up and brought him along. Hearing Wabiai's words, Gu Mingming called out everyone's names one by one. Only Leonard did not respond. She guessed that Wabiai had picked him up. Gu Mingming felt a little uneasy. So, she wrapped one arm around Elvis's neck and the other tightly held onto Leah. This was the only way she could feel more at ease. After walking for a long time, there was still no end to the white fog. Gu Mingming was worried that Leah could not take it, so she asked, Leah, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Leah placed his other hand gently on the back of Gu Mingming's hand. No, I'm fine now. Gu Mingming felt more assured when she heard that Li's tone was not forced at all. Then she asked Elvis, Hubby, how about you? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Elvis wanted to say that he was fine, but he had promised not to hide anything from her. So he answered honestly. My breathing is a little irregular and I feel strangely irritated. But luckily I can take it. Gu Mingming knew that Elvis would definitely be able to take it if he said so. But since she could make him feel more comfortable, why should she make him suffer? Thus, Gu Mingming's little mouth gently pressed against Elvis's lips. A light and lingering kiss brushed away the turbidity and frustration in Elvis's chest. That faint sense of irritation also subsided. No one knew how long they had been walking, but when Elvis stepped out of the white fog, the brightness in front of them burned everyone's eyes. Before Gu Mingming could react, Elvis had already pressed the back of her head and pressed her face against his chest. He whispered into her ear, Slow down, it's too glaring. Yes. Gu Mingming gradually got used to the light on Elvis's chest, then slowly opened her eyes. She only raised her head from Elvis's embrace when she was completely used to it. After a head count, Leonard had fainted and was being carried along by Wabiai's snake tail. Elvis and Leah remained by Gu Mingming's side while Peter stood slightly further away from them. His head was lowered and his features could not be seen clearly. They just felt that he was giving off a strange vibe, as if he was very irritated. Peter, are you all right? Gu Mingming probed. Peter clenched his fists tightly and kept his head down. After a long silence, he nodded as a reply. Chapter 971. Wabiai rolled his eyes at Gu Mingming with an impatient expression. He had come looking for a fight, but now he had become a nanny. So unhappy, so aggrieved, but he couldn't do anything to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming surveyed her surroundings. The vegetation here was lush, but different from the usual style in the beast world. The forests in the beast world were also lush, but the style was more like that of the Amazon primeval forest. But here, the style was more like the 3D special effects in the movie Avatar. It was as beautiful as the background in a fairy tale, giving off a surreal feeling. But, her lonely old man was clearly not here. Looking back at the place they had come from, the white fog was like a whirlpool, a little like the teleportation portal in online games. Leah made a mark at the exit, before the group started walking deeper into the forest. Every plant she saw here was a novel experience for Gu Mingming. It was as if she had fallen into a fairyland. Everything was too much for her eyes to take in. Suddenly, a murderous aura assaulted her from the back. Before Gu Mingming could turn around, she heard a cry behind her. Looking over, she saw Peter lying on the ground, his entire body covered in poison that was corroding his skin. Gu Mingming recognized this poison. It was snakes. In just a blink of an eye, Wabiai had already wrapped Peter up tightly with his snake tail. His eyes were filled with danger, and his fangs were secreting poison. Why did he attack me? Gu Mingming didn't understand. Elvis also had a lingering fear. He had been vigilantly guarding his surroundings, but didn't expect danger to come from his side. Luckily, Snake's mark was protecting her, or Gu Mingming would have been injured. After all, Peter was a proper stray beast. Concealing his murderous aura before attacking was his specialty. Frowning, Elvis pulled Gu Mingming deeper into his chest. It must be the influence of the white fog. I was also feeling very frustrated just now and wanted to tear something to shreds. It was your kiss that calmed me down. Gu Mingming looked at Wabiai. What about you? You also wanted to tear something to shreds? Wabiai laughed coldly. I'm not a brainless little wolf. How could I fall for it so easily? I held my breath the moment I entered the white fog. Talking about age again, Gu Mingming's heart twitched. Yes, the fact that she had slept with a 16-year-old wolf boy was a thorn in her heart. Besides, I'm a snake. Even if I feel irritated, I'll strangle it. Why would I want to tear something apart? Gu Mingming pouted. Little shit. What? Wabiai expressed his displeasure at Gu Mingming calling him that. Gu Mingming giggled at Wabiai's furious expression. It's alright, I was just casually shouting. I didn't expect you to actually agree. Hehe, it seems like you've already recognized your own status. Scram. Wabiai roared angrily. He glared at Gu Mingming, but his lips were curled into a smile. In the past, when Snake was around, he would start the fight straight away without any nonsense. It was only after he met Gu Mingming that he realized how interesting it was to have someone to bicker with. Peter and Leonard were in varying degrees of unconsciousness and were wrapped up by Wabiai like luggage in the snake's tail. Then the group continued walking in. Chapter 972. Vines snaked all over the place just like a blood-stained cave. Cobwebs were tightly woven and the faint red glow on the vines was like flowing blood, giving one the chills. Gu Mingming frowned and looked closely at the dark red flowing vines. The glowing and flowing parts were all on the veins of the leaves, just like human blood flowing in the blood vessels. Gu Mingming instinctively shrank her neck and snuggled into Elvis's arms. Scared? Elvis asked with concern. Gu Mingming nodded and said, This scene is like a survival in the wild version of a haunted house. It's a little scary. Then let's not go in and go back the way we came? Elvis really didn't care much about that soul of the forest. Not to mention that Qishuan's life was no longer in danger. Even if his life was hanging by a thread and he needed that thing to save his life, he would not let Gu Mingming hold back her fear to take that thing. But Gu Mingming was different. She shook her head and said, I must get the soul of the forest. Why don't you and Leah wait here and I will go in and help you get it? Elvis suggested another solution. Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and smiled. But I don't want to be separated from you. Then? Elvis met Gu Mingming's bright eyes and his heart softened into a mess. He could only kiss her brow dotingly and indulgently saying, Be good and hide in my arms, I will protect you. Gu Mingming nodded her head. Gu Mingming nodded obediently and rested her head on Elvis's shoulder. Elvis, Leah and Wabiai exchanged glances and raised their attention to the highest level. They had never seen anything here before. Stepping into a completely foreign world made them feel very uneasy, especially when they were carrying a female that they could not allow to have any mishaps. Hence, they became even more cautious with every step they took. Leah walked in front to open the way while Elvis carried Gu Mingming in the middle. Wabiai walked at the back, ready to use his snake tail to pull Gu Mingming out if anything happened. One of Lee's feet had just stepped into the range of the blood-red vines and before he could even lift his other foot, the vines had already started to move around, like countless blood snakes entangling and twisting, making rattling noises that made one's hair stand on end. Leah did not dare to move again and just watched the movements of the vines with his guard up. He waited until the vines stopped moving and confirmed that nothing dangerous had happened before he raised his hind legs and entered the place. With this step, the vines shook even more violently, and the rattling sounds became louder. Gu Mingming wanted Leah to retreat, but before she could open her mouth, those vines attacked Leah from all directions. Leah did not even have time to dodge before he was wrapped up by the vines and hung in midair. Then he was quickly wrapped up into a cocoon. The mark on her left ear stung. Gu Mingming knew that Leah was injured and it was a very serious injury. Elvis turned around and handed Gu Mingming over to Wabiai. Without saying a word, he flew into the air and pounced towards that cocoon. He reached out his claws in midair, wanting to cut the vines in half to save Leah. But with one swipe of his claws, the vines did not even leave a mark, not to mention cutting them. Elvis's attack did not cause any damage and instead seemed to have angered those vines. So much so that Elvis had not even landed on the ground when he was already entangled by the vines. It was exactly the same as how he dealt with Leah. Aside from the topic, baby, today's update has ended. Chapter 973. In just a few breaths' time, there were already 2 red vine pupae in midair. Gu Mingming could sense that Elvis was releasing his beast pressure in an attempt to struggle, but the blood vines did not move at all, as if they were completely unaffected by the beast pressure. The same piercing pain came from her collarbone. Elvis was also injured. This realization drove Gu Mingming crazy. In that instant she regretted it. If the price of obtaining the soul of the forest was losing Elvis and Leah, then she did not want it anymore. She would think of other ways to redeem her sons. She could not let anything happen to Elvis and Leah. With that thought in mind, Gu Mingming was already charging towards the red vines. She was the most powerful in the entire beast world. If there was anyone who had the ability to save them, it would be her. Before she could even step in, she felt something tighten around her waist. Her feet immediately left the ground and her body retreated backwards. The moment she stopped, Wabiai's venomous eyes were inches away. His bone-chilling voice assaulted Gu Mingming's eardrums. "What do you want to do?" "I want to save my man." Wabiai's snake tail wrapped tightly around Gu Mingming's waist. He gritted his teeth. "He exchanged his life for yours. I will not allow you to waste it anywhere." Gu Mingming bit her lower lip. She knew that Snake had sacrificed himself to save her life. She knew what she had lost to Snake. But no matter how guilty she felt, she could not watch Elvis and Leah die. "Stay here obediently. I will go save your little wolf pups and cunning foxes." Wabiai let go of Gu Mingming. In his half-beast form he was at least 2.5 meters tall. He was unbelievably imposing in front of Gu Mingming. He turned around with his back facing Gu Mingming. "Unless I die, I will not allow you to trample on his treasures." With that, Wabiai shot into the range of the red vines like an arrow. His speed was faster than the vine's movement speed, so it was not easy for the vines to wrap around him. After over 800 years of battling with Snake, he was very clear on how to avoid damage in a linear attack. But even so, there were just too many vines to deal with. In the end, Wabiai became the 3rd vine pupa in midair. Gu Mingming knew that Elvis and Leah would not be able to hold on much longer. She had no time to waste. Even though her body quality was far from a male's, she had Snake's strength. So when she neared the red vines, the moment the vines attacked her, she grabbed one of them and pulled it forcefully, tearing it apart. The end that was connected to the root seemed to be in great pain as it trembled and shrank back. The other end that was torn off was like a fish that was stranded on the shore, flopping around meaninglessly for a while before it stopped moving. Red liquid flowed out from the wound, and the corpse of the vine gradually became transparent as the red liquid flowed out. Gu Mingming did not know what this meant. She only knew that she had the ability to break the vines. This meant that she could save Elvis, Leah and Wabiai. The vines did not continue to attack her like unintelligent creatures. Instead, they twisted together in groups of 3 to 5 before attacking her. The 3 vines twisted into a fried dough twist, the thickness of which was comparable to Gu Mingming's calf. She could not even grab hold of it, let alone pull it apart. Chapter 974. The vines didn't break, but they cut Gu Mingming's hand. Then, the vines in her hand were like fruits placed in a fruit dryer, withering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, the red liquid slowly flowed into Gu Mingming's body through the wound on her palm like silk. Gu Mingming was at a loss at this sudden change and didn't know what to do. She could only open her palm and watch as the red vines gradually lost their color. Thousands of silk threads gathered in her palm and finally entered her body. Gu Mingming could feel an endless amount of energy flowing into her body, challenging and breaking through the limits of what her body could withstand. In the end, only the 3 pupae in midair were left in this sea of red. Ah! Gu Mingming screamed as she endured the pain from the swelling of her body. In an instant, the 3 pupae burst open. A black figure dashed towards Gu Mingming and caught her as she fell backward. He protected her in his arms and kissed her forehead. His heart ached for her sweaty and exhausted appearance. He whispered, "Xiaoming, it's all right now, it's all right now." Wabi returned to Gu Mingming's side at almost the same time as Elvis. He just stood behind Gu Mingming, pursing his lips and not saying a word. And Leah was not as powerful as Elvis and Wabi. He was also the first to be wrapped in the pupae and was the weakest. He wanted to be like Elvis and use his last bit of energy to rush towards Gu Mingming. Even if he died, he wanted to die in her arms. But unfortunately, this was the difference in their abilities. He used his last bit of energy to break out of the pupae. Leah, after the pupae wrapped them up, the leaves became incomparably sharp. Lee's entire body was covered in wounds. Although he knew medicine and had protected his important arteries and larger blood vessels in advance, he was still covered in wounds from the leaves and was covered in blood. He heard Gu Mingming calling him, so he gritted his teeth and forced a smile as he slowly walked towards her. One step, another step. When he finally reached her, Gu Mingming was sobbing uncontrollably. Leah knelt down on one knee and caressed Gu Mingming's face. "Mingming, don't be afraid. I am here." Gu Mingming's consciousness was already on the verge of blurring. The last scene she saw was countless blood-like red liquid exploding on Lee's back, before shooting towards her like congealed blood needles. Her vision darkened and Gu Mingming fainted. As long as Elvis and Leah were fine, that was good. If she died, then so be it. In any case, she would only cause trouble for them. If it wasn't for her willfulness, the 2 of them would probably be able to live a better life. Someone kept calling her name by her ear, but she couldn't open her tired eyes. Her whole body sank down, lying in the position of a baby in its mother's womb, as if her whole body was soaked in a kind of scarlet blood. Silence. Everything was so quiet that it was suffocating. Even the traces of the flow of time couldn't create a single ripple here. After an unknown period of time, Gu Mingming finally opened her eyes slowly. It was just her eyelashes fluttering slightly, but this slight movement was like a stabilizing force that calmed Elvis and Lee's turbulent world. Chapter 975. After Gu Mingming regained her consciousness, she opened her mouth to speak but realized that her throat was extremely hoarse and so dry that it hurt. Elvis immediately brought a cup of water to her lips so that she could moisten her throat. This water was very sweet and different from what she had drunk in the past. There was no pollution in the beast world and all springs, streams and rivers could be used directly. It had a special natural sweetness, but this cup was different. After drinking it, she could feel the sweetness spreading through her blood vessels to every part of her body. Her dry body felt as if it was being nourished and irrigated. That feeling was very magical. It was as if her body had been cleansed completely and she had become transparent and clean. "Is everyone all right?" Gu Mingming could finally speak. Elvis nodded and carried Gu Mingming into his arms like a princess. He deeply inhaled the fragrance of her hair to calm down the uneasiness he had been feeling for the past few days. His voice was tired and hoarse, but it was mixed with a different kind of gentleness. "Only you were unconscious for 3 days and 2 nights, everyone else is fine." Gu Mingming nodded. Gu Mingming then nodded and felt much more at ease. Turning her head, Gu Mingming leaned her entire body against Elvis's chest and reached out a hand to caress Lee's face. Her body was very tired, but she tried her best to smile. "It's great that you are all right." Gu Mingming's voice was a little weak. "I was really scared when I saw you covered in blood before I fainted." Leah covered Gu Mingming's hand with his large hand and pulled it from his face to his lips. He kissed it deeply and said, "I'm sorry I'm too weak and made you worry." Gu Mingming smiled and shook her head. "It's not that you're too weak, it's that I brought you guys to a dangerous place. It's all my fault. I had no confidence at all and let you guys take the risk with me." Silly girl. Lee's lips could not bear to leave this soft little hand. He had been holding it like this for the past 3 days, afraid that her hand would turn cold and he would never be able to lift it again. Now that this little hand was still warm and his Gu Mingming could still talk to him, the panic he had been suppressing for the past 3 days started to flare up. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. Partners exist to protect you and do whatever you want. If I can't protect you, it will be my sin. Gu Mingming did not argue with Leah about the beast world's views on love. After all, in the beast world, where, if you don't act, you won't love me, it was really hard for Gu Mingming to tell them not to be too petty in love. Elvis pulled Gu Mingming's shoulders to make her sit up straight, then he sat opposite her. His blue eyes stared deeply at Gu Mingming as he frowned with a serious expression. Gu Mingming had never seen Elvis facing her so seriously before. She panicked for a moment and subconsciously smiled to please him, asking, "Hubby, what's wrong?" Elvis did not say a word and just stared deeply at Gu Mingming. His thin lips were pressed into a straight line, giving off an oppressive feeling as if a storm was brewing. Gu Mingming felt that Elvis was angry this time, but she did not know what he was angry about, so she looked at Leah for help. Unexpectedly, Lee's eyes darkened and he actually sat beside Elvis. Chapter 976. What exactly happened? Gu Mingming asked cautiously. Elvis took 2 deep breaths before saying slowly, "Why didn't you escape then?" Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in confusion. Escape? When? Where to escape to? Leah continued Elvis's words and continued, "Wabi, I already told us that when we were entangled by the blood vines, you had the chance to escape. But not only did you not escape, you even charged towards the blood vines." Lee's tone was gentler than Elvis's, but his words were full of reproach. This made Gu Mingming feel as if she did not stay behind to save them, but just ran away without a care in the world. Wasn't this state of mind reversed? Shouldn't he be extremely touched, kissing, hugging and raising her high up in the air? Why was he acting as if she was having an affair and wanted to divorce him? "Xiaoming, you promised us that you would prioritize your own safety under any circumstances." Every word of Elvis sounded as if he had used a knife to pry open his heart and grinded his words with his blood. Gu Mingming felt a throbbing pain in her heart just by listening to him. She could feel her heart throbbing in pain. "I remember." Gu Mingming's voice softened and she frowned, but did not look like she was admitting her mistake. She said stubbornly, "But the situation this time is special. If I didn't help, you and Leah would have died." How could Elvis not know that Gu Mingming was risking her life for them? It would be a lie to say that he was not touched. He was so touched that he wanted to dig out his own heart and crush it to appease the strange movements in his chest. "But, it is my honor to die for you." Clenching his teeth, he carefully polished every inch of Gu Mingming's worries during the 3 days she was unconscious. With the blood in his heart, he ground it into cinnabar and dripped it between his lips. He used his words to let her clearly see the wound on his heart and how painful and fatal it was. "If anything happens to you, the both of us will not be able to die in peace." Leah had said these words to her before. At that time they were still in the Snake King Valley and Snake was still alive. She used her body to block in front of Elvis to prevent Snake from using his snake tail to whip Elvis. But in the end, Elvis protected her in his arms and forcefully received Snake's tail. At that time she begged Leah to quickly save Elvis, but Leah held her shoulders and said, "If anything were to happen to you, we wouldn't be able to rest in peace. If we still have any weight in your heart, promise me that you will prioritize your own safety under any circumstances." She remembered what she had promised. But if she really wanted to watch Elvis and Leah die while she stayed out of it and escaped, she could not do it. Raising her head, Gu Mingming's eyes reddened. "Let me tell you, I regret it. No matter how many times in the future, as long as you and Leah are in danger, I will not care about anything else and rush over to save you. If you die, I won't live alone. Xiaoming." This was the first time Elvis had shouted at her like this. In the past, no matter what she did, no matter how willful she was, Elvis had never shouted at her like this. Gu Mingming straightened her neck and tears rolled down her cheeks. She refused to give in and roared, "It's useless even if you roar at me. I just can't live without the two of you. What can you do about it? Bite me if you can." Hearing Gu Mingming roaring this sentence in a provocative tone, Elvis and Leah felt their chests hurting from the shock. Chapter 977. Elvis clenched his fists for a long time before finally giving in to Gu Mingming's tears. Hugging her in his arms, Elvis sighed deeply. "I want to protect your smile, but I always make you cry. I'm still too weak." Snake's last words to him were like an awl hanging over his heart. Whenever Gu Mingming was hurt or wronged, it would fall down and stab him viciously. Gu Mingming shook her head. You have already done very well, really very well, but you still cried. Elvis cupped Gu Mingming's little face, his heart aching for her. He kissed away her tears and stared into her reddened eyes. You clearly know that I am helpless against your tears, but you still cry and force me to give in. Wabiai walked over and snorted coldly. Are you done with your nonsense? Are you still going to take the soul of the forest? Gu Mingming's face was still covered in tears. She turned to look at Wabiai. Oh little shit, you are not dead. Wabiai gritted his teeth. I have already said that the only person who can kill me in this world has been killed by you. So I will not die. Gu Mingming nodded. Yes, people say that a scourge lives for 1,000 years, so you can at least live for another 200 years. Wabiai realized that he had no advantage over Gu Mingming at all. He could not win in a fight, nor could he win in an argument. In the end, he just rolled his eyes in anger and didn't say anything else. But with Wabiai's interference, Gu Mingming stopped crying. Sniffing, she looked around and realized that she was no longer with the blood vines. She asked, "Were you all hurrying along when I was unconscious?" Elvis shook his head. "When you were unconscious, we didn't dare to move you for fear of an accident. So we did not move from the same spot." Did not move from the same spot? Gu Mingming was extremely confused. The surrounding scenery was crystal clear, as if it was a world carved out of crystal. It was pure white and transparent, so clean that one could not bear to touch it for fear of tarnishing its purity. Where was the sinister look of the blood vines? If the blood vines were like a blood-stained cave, then this place was like the Jade Lake Palace in the Nine Heavens. If one looked closely, it would not be difficult to discover that the crystalline plant was extremely similar to the blood vines. This is... Gu Mingming stared at it blankly for a long time before she recalled the dazzling red silk that gathered in her palm before she fainted. Spreading open his palm, the wound on his palm had already healed completely. There was no trace of it at all. Gu Mingming mumbled in a daze, "So it wasn't a hallucination caused by my severe injuries. I really sucked the blood from the blood vines into my body? When did I become so capable?" Elvis did not see the entire process of her absorption, but he did see the process of her absorbing the 3 vine chrysalises. Now that he saw her staring at her palm in a daze, he could not help but worry and asked, "Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" Gu Mingming looked at him and asked, "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "I just felt a huge amount of energy entering my body at that time, but now I don't feel anything." Only then did Elvis heave a sigh of relief. "There's something strange about this place, we shouldn't stay here for long. We'd better end this quickly and return after taking the soul of the forest." Chapter 978. For some strange reason, Gu Mingming reached out a hand. That blood vine. Oh no, it should be called crystal vine now. The crystal vines intertwined with each other and formed a palm-like shape. Mimicking Gu Mingming's actions, it lightly stuck onto her palm. Then, with a rustling sound, the crystal vine in front of them parted to reveal a fairyland in front of Gu Mingming's group. Elvis and Leah exchanged a look but didn't say a word. Leonard walked forward and bowed to Gu Mingming. "I was here to help, but I didn't expect to become a burden. This time let me lead the way." Gu Mingming didn't say a word and just nodded. Humans were all selfish. She didn't want Elvis and Leah to take any more risks. If they ended up in a cocoon and hung in midair again, Gu Mingming would go crazy. Peter felt guilty for attacking Gu Mingming, but he wasn't someone who would apologize. To him, rather than saying sorry 100 times, it was better to do something right to make up for it. Moreover, he didn't trust Leonard. So he didn't say a word and just silently walked to Leonard's side to lead the way. Elvis carried Gu Mingming and followed behind them, while Leah stood by Elvis's side, protecting Gu Mingming from both sides. After all, he had the advantage of being longer. If there was a special situation, he could use his tail to fish Gu Mingming back. The group walked along the path that the crystal vine had guided them. The scenery was beautiful, but no one was in the mood to appreciate it. Gu Mingming couldn't stand the silence and poked Leah. "I just thought of something." Leah glanced at her and replied gently, "Hmm?" Gu Mingming said, "Do you remember when I was in the deep sea I told you that I had a dream? I dreamt that there was an endless amount of blood exploding in the sky behind you, and you came drenched in blood. That scene coincided with the last scene I saw before I fainted. It was exactly the same." Leah smiled playfully. "Could it be that father-in-law gave you the heaven's eye of prophecy?" Gu Mingming shook her head. "How is that possible? Our lonely old man is very stingy. I don't know why he never gives me extra pocket money. If he really has the heavenly eye, he won't give it to me unless he drags me to watch 8 or 10 episodes of a TV series. Leah had heard too many of Gu Mingming's complaints about the beast deity. From the initial panic he could now laugh it off. He nodded and said, that could just be a coincidence. Gu Mingming lowered her head and said hesitantly, if it's a coincidence, it's too much of a coincidence. The images are so accurate that every frame is exactly the same. Leah knew that Gu Mingming had a photographic memory after inheriting Snake's abilities, so he did not suspect that she had remembered wrongly. It was just a dream, so Leah did not take it to heart. He just rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and told her not to think too much. Gu Mingming thought about it and agreed. It was a waste of time to make wild guesses. She could just ask that lonely old man the next time she met him. Just as he was thinking, he suddenly heard an anguished wail. Gu Mingming seemed to have been scared out of her wits by the blood vines. Once she heard the wails, she immediately looked around with a face full of wariness. Chapter 979. Is the poison in the white fog acting up again? Gu Mingming asked in confusion. Leah shook his head and used his body to shield Gu Mingming. He glanced sideways at her. Don't you find him rather familiar? Gu Mingming frowned. She had no impression of him. Leah sighed. That's true. Cole is a 5th-level beast after all. He looks better when he's suffering from the backlash. Backlash? Gu Mingming was taken aback. She suddenly recalled the day when they had a showdown with Cole. She had used the backlash of the mating contract to defeat Cole. That day Cole was also in extreme pain. But he was not as writhing and trembling as Leonard was now. Did something happen to Dora? Gu Mingming understood what Leah meant. Leah nodded. Most likely. Gu Mingming frowned as she watched Leonard struggling in pain. He had no other way to deal with the backlash of the mating contract. No one could help him. Zacharias is heavily guarded. How could something happen to Dora in the tribe? Gu Mingming could not understand. Lee's lips curved up in disdain. No matter how heavily guarded the tribe is, it can't stop an idiot from courting death. Gu Mingming sighed. She didn't say anything else. After all, they were all here. No one knew what had happened outside. The only thing she could do now was to wait and see if Leonard could survive the backlash of the mating contract. To be honest, even though she had Snake's memories in her body and was used to seeing bloodshed, Gu Mingming still felt her heart wrench at Leonard's cries and pain. How much pain did he have to be in? How could such a man, who could remain unfazed even in the face of Mount Tai collapse, be in such a pathetic state? His eyes were bulging and bloodshot. She couldn't tell if it was tears or sweat, but they flowed down his face. Ah! Every cry came from the deepest part of his chest. Gu Mingming had personally witnessed what it meant to tear one's heart and lungs apart. A pair of sharp claws fiercely scratched at his chest, as if he wanted to dig out his heart and crush it to end this bone-piercing pain. However, he didn't know what made him resist this desire to dig out his heart and forcibly stop the sharp claws that had already sunk into his chest. After a long while, when Gu Mingming really wanted to give him a quick death, Leonard finally calmed down. At this moment, there was not a single piece of uninjured skin on his body. He looked like a demon that had crawled out of hell. His eyes were sinister and venomous. He trembled as he stood up, ignoring the blood that was still flowing out of his body. He only muttered, "Revenge, I have to avenge Dora. Dora, wait for me. I will come for you after I kill him. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Even in hell, I will protect you." As Reynolds spoke, he turned back the way he came. Gu Mingming did not stop him and just let him leave. She didn't know if Leonard could survive that white fog. After all, he had fainted halfway and it was Wabi who had brought him out. But at this moment, his gaze was too determined. Gu Mingming deeply understood that revenge was his only reason for surviving. But who was he going to find for revenge? And how was he going to do it? Gu Mingming didn't know and didn't ask. Chapter 980. After Leonard left, Gu Mingming hugged Elvis's neck in silence for a long time. Elvis and Leah both thought that she was feeling upset after witnessing that scene because she was soft-hearted, but did not know how to comfort her. Afraid that they would say something wrong and make her even more upset, they could only remain silent. The group continued walking forward. After a long while, Gu Mingming suddenly said, "Hubby, I will definitely protect myself well in the future. I will definitely not let you and Leah experience what Leonard did." Both Elvis and Leah paused for a moment before they smiled. Females in the beast world had always viewed themselves as the most precious, and protecting themselves from any injuries was a basic norm. Only this little female in their family would rush to any dangerous place without stopping. Leah pinched Gu Mingming's cheek and said with indulgence and some helplessness, "You finally have some self-awareness as a female." Elvis also chuckled and kissed Gu Mingming's serious face, saying, "No matter what, knowing how to protect yourself is always a good thing. Don't forget it the moment you turn your head." Gu Mingming swatted away Lee's hand that was pinching her face, then leaned against Elvis's neck, whispering, "I will not forget, because I cannot bear to see you all suffer. When I saw Leonard rolling on the ground in pain just now, I was thinking, if it was you or Leah lying there, my heart would ache so much." Gu Mingming, who never knew how to avoid danger and would often use herself as bait, learned to protect herself for them. Her heart was very warm. Kissing Gu Mingming's brow, Elvis only said one word, "Be good." After walking for a long while, they finally reached the end of the crystal vines. There was only one tree there, and it was so thick that it would require a few people to encircle it. Its roots were the size of a football field, and the roots closest to the trunk were even thicker than Wabiai's body. It could already be considered a sacred tree? If it was in the modern world, it would be listed as a protected area. Gu Mingming jumped down from Elvis's arms and walked towards the tree on her own. Elvis, Leah and the rest followed closely behind, but it was as if they were stopped 200 meters away by an invisible barrier, unable to take another step forward. Even Wabiai could not move an inch forward even with all his might. But Gu Mingming walked over without any obstacles. Turning around, Gu Mingming smiled at Elvis and Leah and said, "Don't worry, I can feel that it has no ill intentions and is not dangerous." Elvis and Leah frowned at the thought of the aggressive nature of the blood vines. If he didn't have any ill intentions, why didn't he allow them to get close? Gu Mingming did not say anything else and just turned around to continue approaching the tree. The leaves on the tree glowed like emeralds, layer upon layer covering the clouds and the sun. Gu Mingming looked up and saw a leaf floating down leisurely, landing right in her palm. It was cool to the touch and had a weight that did not belong to a plant. Gu Mingming scrutinized that piece of leaf. Then, she saw that the leaf gradually disappeared into her palm as if it had melted into her palm and into her body. Chapter 981. Gu Mingming stood under the tree. She looked like she was in a daze, but in fact she was not thinking about anything. She was just feeling the changes in her body. She could feel the indescribable changes happening to her body from the bottom of her heart. After a long time, when the feeling of change stopped, she raised her hand and gently stroked the rough tree trunk. Then, at the position of her fingertips, a tender shoot grew out. There were only two branches, one on the left and one on the right. The leaves on the branches were curled up like a baby's swaddling clothes. The tender green was clearly thin, but it exuded a kind of vitality. A soft, crisp sound was heard. That tender branch fell from the tree trunk and landed right in Gu Mingming's palm. This should be the soul of the forest. Gu Mingming muttered to herself. At the same time that the branch fell, the barrier blocking Elvis and Leah also disappeared. They almost instantly rushed to Gu Mingming's side. Elvis directly pulled Gu Mingming into his arms and hugged her deeply. He only calmed down when he was sure that she was unscathed. Hearing Elvis heave a sigh of relief above her head, Gu Mingming's lips curled up slightly. She showed them the branch in her palm and said, "I got the soul of the forest." Elvis originally did not care much about Qixin, so this ransom was not even worth mentioning to him. It was just that Gu Mingming had spent a lot of effort to obtain this stupid branch. He did not want to spoil her mood, so he gave it a mild look and said, Keep it well. Let's go back." Gu Mingming nodded and used a small piece of beast skin to wrap the soul of the forest. Then she placed it back into her snake skin pocket. The road back seemed to be smoother than when they came. There were not as many accidents and the journey was exceptionally smooth. But when they exited the Crystal Vines area, they could not find the white fog door that they came from. It was not that they could not find it, but there were too many of them. She did not know which one was the real one. All the doors looked exactly the same. Even the markings that Leah had left behind were exactly the same. Gu Mingming did not know what to do. Would there be any accidents if she randomly chose one to enter? Just as she was hesitating, a familiar voice came from one of the doors. "Gu, I'm here to pick you up." With that, Cole stepped out of the white fog with one foot while the other was still in the fog. Half of his body poked out of the white fog door, and he stretched out his hand in a welcoming gesture. Gu Mingming frowned in displeasure. Even though Cole's appearance had solved her problem of not being able to tell which door was which, but it could not hide the fact that she felt annoyed every time she saw him. "What are you doing here?" Gu Mingming was not in a good mood. She would not accept Cole's kindness just because he had pointed out the correct door, nor would she refuse to enter out of spite just because Cole was the one who pointed it out. Upon receiving Gu Mingming's signal, Elvis directly ignored Cole and walked past him through the white fog door. She had just stepped one foot in when the white fog started to roll, as if the thick clouds were being stirred up by a hurricane. Wave after wave surged towards Gu Mingming. Stunned for a moment, she took out the soul of the forest from her pocket. As expected, the white fog was sucked into the soul of the forest like a leak in a bathtub. Gu Mingming's mouth twitched. She smiled and said, "Planting trees is indeed the fundamental solution to prevent and control the smog. Aside from the topic, tomorrow was Susu's birthday. Will my babies come and wish me happy birthday? I'm looking forward to it." Chapter 982. As Elvis carried Gu Mingming forward, the white fog followed Gu Mingming into the soul of the forest. When they were halfway there, the visibility was much higher than when they came. At the very least, they could see each other's vague silhouettes. Cole then opened his mouth and said, "Ah Gu, do you intend to accept that fish?" Gu Mingming frowned. At the same time, she could feel the intense murderous aura emanating from Elvis and Leah. She had already explained about Fei Rui and they had, temporarily, believed her. But this matter could not be brought up again. As long as she did not chase Fei Rui back into the ocean, the two of them would not be at ease. It was also Gu Mingming's fault for saying such a stupid excuse to fool Dora. Speaking of Dora, Gu Mingming's gaze darkened as she looked at Cole. When she said she wanted to accept Fei Rui, there were not many people present. Other than the group around her, there were only Dora, Leonard and the witch doctor from Zacharias, Nick. So, how did Cole know about this? Gu Mingming frowned as she recalled the backlash from the mating contract with Leonard. She pursed her lips and did not say a word. Cole chuckled softly as if he was trying to hold back his laughter. He looked up with a pair of eyes that were 80% similar to Lee's. His gaze seemed ambiguous through the white fog. His voice carried an uncomfortable sense of joy. "I realize that you look so good when you are thinking about me wholeheartedly." Gu Mingming snorted in disdain. She did not say a word and just turned her face to the other side. She felt very aggrieved. From a certain perspective, Cole was right. She was really thinking of him just now. Seeing her like this, Cole twisted her disgust into shyness. His smile deepened. "Ha, alright, I won't tease you anymore. If you want to know, I can tell you." Gu Mingming was not interested. Actually, she had already guessed most of what had happened. Even if it was slightly different from the truth, it was not far from it. Most importantly, she did not want to hear Cole speak. She would feel disgusted the moment he opened his mouth. But Cole clearly did not want to give up the chance to show his presence in front of Gu Mingming. He just continued. "You should have realized it long ago, right? How could that stupid female Dora have the brains to strategize? I was the one who taught her how to frame Melinda." With that, Cole paused for a moment. He suddenly smiled with some contempt and continued. "But she is really good at stirring up other people's feelings. I just casually gave her a few pointers and she actually learned it well. She instigated Carter to snatch the mermaid tribe's territory and severely injured Fei Rui. Ha, she really thought that Fei Rui would be hers if he had nothing left and was at his wit's end." As expected, this matter was related to Cole again. Was it a surprise? It was hard to say. Initially, Gu Mingming did not think it was Cole, but after Cole admitted everything, Gu Mingming could not find a reason to be surprised. How should I put it? She felt that it wasn't strange that all the bad things in the world were related to him. In Gu Mingming's heart, the two of them were the source of all evil. Looking up, Gu Mingming asked coldly, "Since she was a useful chess piece, why did you kill her?" The white fog had thinned and Cole was not far from Gu Mingming. She could even see his expression clearly now. His eyes were like black peach blossoms, and there was a trace of affection in them. "Didn't you fall for Fei Rui? How can I allow others to covet what you like? Aside from the topic, baby, do you want to say happy birthday to me?" Chapter 983. Just because of this? Gu Mingming did not like Dora, but not to the extent of wanting to kill her. Gu Mingming would not be able to live with the fact that she had caused a precious female to lose her life because of a lie she had told. Especially, after personally witnessing the pain Leonard had to endure because of this. Cole thought for a moment before shaking his head. Because of this, but not just because of this. That female Dora is too stupid. Gu Mingming did not understand. Sometimes she really wanted to try and understand what Cole was thinking, because then she might be able to find a way to rescue Qishan from his hands. But no matter how hard she tried, Gu Mingming could not succeed. A normal person would never understand the world of a lunatic. Cole looked into Gu Mingming's eyes and filtered out the disgust in them. He only admired the way those clear eyes were focused on him. He chuckled. Those eyes were so clean. If she could possess 30% bloodlust, 30% cruelty, 30% malevolence and 10% lust for him, how perfect would that be? But it was all right. He could take it slow and eventually achieve it. Even if she could not do it, he could slowly infuse all of these into her eyes. Chuckling, Cole said, as a reward for her obedience, I gave her a team of underwater stray beasts to help her fulfill her wish to snatch Fei Rui away and imprison him. But she was too greedy. Not only did she want to snatch Fei Rui away, she also wanted to kill Melinda, and even set her sights on you. She wanted to snatch the kiss of the ocean, using my men to snatch my things from my woman. Don't you think she is extremely stupid? Gu Mingming clenched her teeth. I am not your woman. Cole turned a deaf ear to Gu Mingming's declaration. No matter what Gu Mingming said, she would be his sooner or later. Of course, only Cole thought this way in the entire world. Gu Mingming really wanted to kill Cole when she saw his face. But she did not dare to do so. She did not know if Qishan would jump out from nowhere to block her when she was about to kill Cole. As long as she did not snatch Qishan back, she would not be able to do anything to Cole. That was why he dared to appear in front of her and disgust her so blatantly, right? That stupid female kept emphasizing her great love to me. She said that although her methods were despicable, it was only because she loved Fei Rui too much. Did you know? She even showed off her clean body in front of me, saying that she wanted to give her first time to Fei Rui and make him her first partner. That look of longing for a beautiful future really made people want to shatter it. So, when she was imprisoned as a clan slave, I used a little bit of the fox seductive fragrance to make a school of male fish trample her laughable dream into dust. But unfortunately, her look of despair was not good to look at, and even made me feel that it was very boring. As Cole said, it was as if he was commenting on a handicraft that had failed on the verge of success. No matter how close the process was to perfection, it was still a mess and could not return to its original form. Gu Mingming frowned as she listened. Dora choosing to cooperate with Cole was equivalent to making a deal with the devil. She was not innocent, and it could even be said that she had brought this upon herself. But hearing Cole's explanation, Gu Mingming suddenly felt that Dora was rather pitiful. Chapter 984. I wanted Dora to just die like that. Cole continued. Suddenly he laughed and said, but I unexpectedly found out something interesting. A tiger who yearned for the sea once met a female mermaid by the sea and fell deeply in love with her. It's a pity that tigers cannot survive in the deep ocean, and since there are so few mermaid females, they would never leave the ocean to live on land. Tiger? Wasn't Leonard just a tiger? Gu Mingming gave a disdainful chuckle. Why taint the word accident? Didn't you choose to make use of Dora from the very beginning because you saw this added value in her? Cole's eyes brightened. He looked at Gu Mingming with obvious approval. Agu is indeed Agu. She is so different from those foolish females. Gu Mingming was not at all happy to be praised by Cole. She stared at Cole coldly and didn't say another word. Cole was still smiling. He said in a, I really don't know what to do with you tone. All right, I admit it. From the start, I knew that the female mermaid Leonard had his eyes on was Dora. But Dora only wanted Fei Rui. She would never leave with Leonard. So I could only play a little trick to help this pair of lovers be together. Play a little trick? Gu Mingming despised Cole a million times in her heart. He used these few words to describe Dora's hellish torment as a slave of the clan. He had used the fox seductive fragrance to attract the male fish to torture Dora. Part of it was his vulgar sense of humor, but more importantly, it was to make Dora's heart break down and sink into despair. This was the only way for Dora to hug Reynolds tightly when he appeared, as if clutching at a life-saving straw. And the clueless Leonard would only feel heartache over the torment his beloved had suffered. Step by step he would fall into Cole's trap. The most important part was that Cole had predicted that Dora would never be able to obtain Fei Rue. Because once Dora obtained Fei Rue, she would devote all her attention to Fei Rue and would never work for Cole again. In other words, from the very beginning, Cole had never intended for Dora to obtain Fei Rue. He had lied to her. He had lied to her right from the start. As for Dora, it was probably only on her deathbed that she understood. Using Fei Rue to keep Dora hanging, instigating Carter to imprison Melinda, forcing Fei Rue into a corner. Then he would intentionally leak news of the kiss of the ocean to Fei Rue. Eager to save his sister, Fei Rue would naturally head to Saint Nazaire to look for Gu Mingming. Cole did not need to interfere in the subsequent matters. He only needed to manipulate a few chess pieces at the crucial moment to easily achieve his goal. Once Reynolds rescued Dora, he would use Fei Rue to summon Dora again. Dora had done so much for Fei Rue. She would not be satisfied if she could not have Fei Rue. So, Dora would definitely listen to Cole and instigate Leonard to take in the old tribesmen who had attacked the Snake King Valley. Then she would go to Sauter to ask for peace and use the soul of the forest in exchange for Gu Mingming's forgiveness. Was this the real reason why Cole wanted Gu Mingming to go to Sauter before winter? He had to ensure that Leonard would be able to find Gu Mingming when he went to sue for peace. Thinking about it this way, Chapter 985. Cole stared at Gu Mingming with an even more amazed expression. He said with anticipation, "My Gu is so smart. Tell me, what else can you think of? I'll tell you everything you've guessed." Gu Mingming gritted her teeth and turned away from Cole. She didn't want to speak to Cole anymore. She was afraid that she would lose control and strangle Cole to death. She was even more afraid that if she continued, she would kill herself on impulse. There were clues everywhere. Why didn't she see it back then? The stray beasts had attacked them at the bottom of the sea. Their 100-strong team had been reduced to a few kittens. Carter was severely injured, while Fei Rue, who was weaker than him, only had a few superficial wounds. And she had clearly noticed that the stray beasts were intentionally attacking Melinda. She had just thought that it was to restrain Carter and Fei Rue. Now that she thought about it, it was Dora who wanted to kill Melinda and snatch Fei Rue away. But there was one thing that Gu Mingming couldn't understand. Melinda was Fei Rue's biological sister. She wasn't a threat to Dora. Why did she hate Melinda so much that she was willing to risk the chance to snatch Fei Rue away just to kill Melinda? Was it an intolerable relationship between a lover's sister? Or was there something else between her and Melinda that wasn't their relationship? She couldn't figure it out and had nowhere to ask. Dora was dead. The reason why she could not tolerate Melinda had become a thing of the past. With Dora's death, the dust had settled. Gu Mingming didn't pursue the matter further. She just buried her face in Elvis's neck and whispered, "I'm tired. Let's sleep for a while." Let's sleep. Elvis supported her but with one hand and patted her back with the other, patting her gently in a rhythmic manner. Leah had been standing between Gu Mingming and Cole. His furry tail seemed to be swaying nonchalantly, but it blocked Cole's line of sight completely. It was fine when his Gu Mingming wanted to talk to Cole. But now that his Gu Mingming was about to sleep, Cole was still looking at her shamelessly? Cole looked at Leah and chuckled. "Ninth Highness, aren't you a little too impatient? This kind of childish behavior. It will only make me feel that treating you as an opponent is simply an insult to myself." Leah was neither angry nor amused. He just looked at Cole coldly and said, "Childish? But my Mingming said that this is called a child's heart and she likes it very much." Leah was filled with disdain. If Cole had tried to goad him into action in the past, he might have fallen for it, or at least his emotions would have been affected. But when they were carving the 36 stratagems on the wall of the meeting room, Gu Mingming had told them the gist of these stratagems as she watched them carve. These days, he had been pondering over and over again when he had nothing to do, and now he had mastered it thoroughly. It would not be as easy as before for Cole to use these tricks against him again. Cole also knew that Leah had learned the 36 stratagems before, so he did not think that he would succeed in goading him into action. It was just a test. Cole chuckled and said, "Agu has contributed a lot to Ninth Highness growth. I'm getting more and more interested in her. She can even train an innocent person like you to this extent. If she were to be with me." Chapter 986. Cole chuckled but didn't answer Lee's question. He wasn't angry either. Dirty? It didn't matter as long as Agu was as dirty as him. So, as long as she liked them, he would send them to her bed, no matter how many males there were for her to pick and play with. As long as he was the one standing by her side in the end, everything would be fine. Cole didn't say anything else. Leah also couldn't be bothered to waste time with him. The group didn't say anything else until the white fog was completely absorbed by the soul of the forest in Gu Mingming's hands. Only then did they see that under the white fog, there was a natural tunnel formed by the intersecting trees above their heads. It was just like the long corridor where princes and princesses would walk hand in hand when they got married. Sunlight shone down, creating countless rays of light that added a sense of romance and warmth to the long corridor. If Wabiai and Cole weren't around, this scene would be the most beautiful and romantic. Gu Mingming didn't want to talk to Cole and he didn't continue chattering. They finally reached the end of the path. Gu Mingming lay on Elvis's shoulder, her face facing the path they had walked through. She didn't turn back, but Gu Mingming could feel a cold murderous intent behind her. This murderous intent wasn't directed at her. Elvis, Leah and Wabiai were all around. Even if she wasn't a beast king and was just an ordinary female, no one could hurt her in front of the three of them. She turned back with a probing look. Meeting Leonard's bloodshot eyes, Gu Mingming frowned. Seeking revenge. Gu Mingming muttered softly. It wasn't a question but a statement. On the way here, Cole had already admitted that he was the one who killed Dora. Hence, it was obvious who Leonard was waiting for. Cole didn't seem surprised by Leonard's appearance. His smile turned chilly as he said, "You have disappointed me again, little Shin." Gu Mingming's body stiffened at the last word. Just a moment ago, she had been standing by as if this matter had nothing to do with her. But now, her beautiful eyes were searching everywhere. Little Shin, Qi Shin? The smell of blood filled her nostrils. Gu Mingming carefully identified it for a long time before realizing that it was Qishuan's scent. Cole was not lying to her. Qi Shin was here and he was injured. She glanced sharply at Cole, but he shrugged his shoulders innocently and said, "Little Shin was the one who requested to stop Leonard and let me go in to fetch you. I was just following Little Shin's wishes." Reynold was a level 4 orc. Even though he had just suffered from the backlash of the mating contract, the difference in levels was huge. How could Qi Shin, a newly evolved level 1 orc, defeat him? Cole was forcing Qi Shin into a dead end. Clenching her fists tightly, Gu Mingming squeezed out 2 words from the gaps of her teeth. Cook. Cole chuckled and replied with a sweet smile, "Agu, you're looking at me so intently again, it's so nice. I'll kill you." Gu Mingming's eyes were bloodshot and filled with hatred. He looked into Gu Mingming's eyes with a look of enjoyment. "Yeah, I'm very honored to be the first soul whose name is remembered in your hands. Throw open my chest and use my blood to establish your bloodthirsty rule. I will be the first soul whose name is remembered in your hands. With Shin accompanying me on the road to the Yellow Springs, I'm not afraid of loneliness." Intimidation. This was blatant intimidation. Cole was saying that if he died, Qi Shin would be buried with him. Chapter 987. Gu Mingming was being carried by Cole. She clenched her fists tightly to stop her body from trembling. At the same time, Leonard had already rushed over. He did not care that he was covered in blood, nor did he care that he was no match for Cole as a 4th level. He was already blinded by hatred. Other than killing Cole, he had no other thoughts. However, just as he reached Cole, he was stunned by Cole's sneer. "Kneel down." Leonard's entire body convulsed uncontrollably. Then he really knelt down. Gu Mingming was very surprised. She did not feel any beast pressure from Cole at all. But Leonard was obviously stunned. Cole looked up, enjoying Gu Mingming's surprised gaze. He smiled. "Agu, do you see that? I am such an unparalleled existence, and I have left a place for you by my side. As long as you are willing, you are my master. I am willing to submit to you, to use this world as a stepping stone, and to bring you to a higher place." "There's no need," Gu Mingming said. She patted Elvis's shoulder and asked him to bring her away. Gu Mingming felt some sympathy for Leonard. Those who hated stray beasts had now become stray beasts, but still had to crawl at the feet of their enemies, unable to resist. Gu Mingming finally understood what Leah had said before. Cole had never enjoyed killing but seeing others struggle in despair. He wanted the pleasure of trampling on others. And Gu Mingming could not do anything about Leonard's predicament. After all, Dora was the female he had chosen. He was also the one who had decided to take in the old tribesmen who had attacked the Snake King Valley. He had even used the soul of the forest to sue for peace and left Dora behind to search for the soul of the forest with her. He had done everything himself. Now that he had ended up like this, who could he blame? Cole had made use of Dora to scheme against Gu Mingming. But Gu Mingming knew that she had never harmed anyone before. She would not be so innocent as to take all the blame on herself and say that if it wasn't for her, things would not have turned out this way. She just wanted to know where her son was and how he was now. Elvis understood Gu Mingming and did not say a word. He just carried Gu Mingming out of the corridor and looked around for Qixin, who was sprawled under a tree not far away. Clearly he had been beaten back to his original form. If not for the slight rise and fall of his abdomen indicating that he was still alive, Gu Mingming would have fainted from not being able to catch her breath. Leah stepped forward and started his treatment without a second word. Frowning, Leah cursed in his heart. This damned Leonard, he was too heavy-handed. If Cole didn't kill him later, he would kill him with his own hands. Mengming's heart would ache to see Qixin beaten up like this. Leah, how is Qixin? Gu Mingming's voice was very soft, as if raising her voice would cause further harm to Qixin. But even such a soft sound could not cover the frequency of the trembling. This son of hers always tugged at her heart, causing her so much pain that she wished she were dead. Leah took a deep breath, then turned to look at Gu Mingming. He frowned and said, Mingming, you have to promise me that you must remain calm. Once she said that, Gu Mingming's whole body went limp and she directly fell into Elvis's arms. She held back her tears and asked, will he die? Chapter 988. Gu Mingming nodded. She knew this. Because last winter, when Elvis pretended to be unconscious to create an opportunity for Leah, Leah had told her this. Once something happened to her, Leah would prioritize taking care of her regardless of anyone else's life or death. So, if she wanted Leah to focus on treating Qixin, she had to adjust her attitude. She could not allow herself to be distracted by anything. Leah held Gu Mingming's shoulders with both hands. Seeing her determined expression and gradually calming gaze, he exchanged a look with Elvis before continuing to treat Qixin. Many of Qixuan's bones were fractured, probably caused by external injuries. His internal organs were also severely damaged, probably caused by his refusal to submit to the beast pressure of a higher level. There was a serious buildup of water in his chest, and blood kept flowing from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were starting to lose focus, as if he was forcing himself to look in a certain direction. Leah followed his gaze. It was not Gu Mingming but Cole. Rascal, listen up. Leah pinched Qixuan's mouth and forced his face to face him. Then he said with a cold expression, if you die, your mother will kill Cole to vent her anger. And I will put all the tears your mother shed because of your death on Cole's account. I will open a sacrificial altar and make him suffer for eternity, never to see the light of day again. I am a witch doctor, and also the son of the deity of the Snow Fox tribe. You know I have this ability. If you want to protect Cole, you better grit your teeth and bear with it. Live on no matter how painful it is. With that, Lee's palm turned into a sharp claw and accurately opened a small hole in the water in Qixuan's chest, letting the water out. Gu Mingming's heart ached as she watched, but there was nothing she could do. In this F*King era where there were no anesthetics, Gu Mingming really wanted to use her own chest to bear the pain in Qixuan's place. But she could not make a sound. She could not even cry. Because any emotion she showed would distract Leah. Clenching her own mouth tightly, Gu Mingming stared fixedly at Qixin. Leonard's tragic cries came from behind, but Gu Mingming could not muster up a single ounce of sympathy. Her son had been injured by Leonard. This was a debt that Cole and Leonard could not escape from. Qixin coughed out a mouthful of blood onto Lee's face. Leah continued to focus on treating Qixuan's injuries as if he could not feel it. Cole walked to Gu Mingming's side and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He looked at Qixin and Leah with a cold smile on his lips, completely unable to see the love he had for Qixin in the past. Qixuan's body convulsed even more violently. His eyes were already glazed over and it was obvious that he could not hold on any longer. Then, Qixin gradually calmed down. He stopped convulsing. Furthermore, he did not move an inch. Gu Mingming could not control herself and started sobbing softly. Leah stood up and walked to Gu Mingming's side. He could not bear to see her teary eyes, so he just lowered his head and said, Mingming, I'm sorry. Ah. Gu Mingming's emotions crumbled at those 3 words. She shook her head furiously. No, don't let me down. Leah, I beg you save Qixin. If there was a way, how could I bear to let you shed a single tear? Leah was speechless and could not say a single comforting word. Chapter 989. Gu Mingming widened her eyes and glared at Cole. If you lie to me, I will make sure you die a horrible death. Cole chuckled and released Gu Mingming's chin. With his palm facing upwards, he said, Give me the soul of the forest. Without another word, Gu Mingming handed the soul of the forest to Cole. Without further ado, Cole turned around and squatted beside Qixuan. Then he placed that tiny branch between Qixuan's brows. Like a leaf in Gu Mingming's palm, that branch gradually melted between Qixuan's brows and disappeared. A tattoo-like mark appeared on Qixuan's forehead. It was just a branch with two forks. One of the leaves was quietly unfurled, while the other was still curled up like a baby's swaddling clothes. A miraculous scene unfolded before Gu Mingming's eyes. The wounds on Qixuan's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The rise and fall of his abdomen increased and gradually calmed down. Without another word, Leah squatted back beside Qixuan and flipped open his eyelids to look at his pupils. He then turned to look at Gu Mingming and nodded with a smile. Gu Mingming then heaved a sigh of relief, feeling that her heart had finally returned to her chest. Cole tilted his head and looked at Gu Mingming. Gu, I saved little Shen again. Tell me, how should you repay me? Repay? Gu Mingming's eyes were about to bleed and the blood vessels on her fists were about to burst. She questioned him word by word. You almost killed my son, how do you think I should repay you? Cole looked at Gu Mingming with an innocent expression. It was little Shen's own decision to stay and fight with Leonard. He is an adult, shouldn't he be responsible for his own decision? Furthermore, the one who injured little Shen was Reynold. I have already crushed Reynolds' bones inch by inch to avenge little Shen. You even used the soul of the forest to extend Shen'er's life. The kiss of the ocean and the soul of the forest are the ransom that you promised me. I used such precious treasures on Shen'er, shouldn't you be thanking me? Gu Mingming suddenly felt that she could not speak. Gu Mingming's worldview was so low that she could not respond to it. It was said that a tree without its skin would definitely die, and a person without face would be invincible. This time she had seen it for herself. He had harmed her son so many times, and now she was thanking him. What do you think if I remove your head? Gu Mingming clenched her fists, wishing she could crush his head. But Cole chuckled. He glanced sideways at Qixuan, who had yet to wake up. You don't want the son you just saved? You? Gu Mingming was trembling with rage, but she was helpless because of Qixuan. She could only grit her teeth and ask, What do you want for Qixuan to be let off? Cole tapped his chin and looked up at the sky. He seemed to think for a long time before replying slowly, I'll use you to exchange for it, how about that? If you stay by my side, I will let Qixuan go and let him leave me. Another one. Gu Mingming would never agree to Cole's conditions because if she did, she would be forcing Elvis and Leah to die. Cole thought about it awkwardly, then pointed at Gu Mingming's left ear and said, How about cutting off your left ear and giving it to me? Left ear. That was where Lee's mating mark was. Chapter 990. If one ear could be used to exchange for a son, Gu Mingming would not hesitate at all. Cole shook his head, his gaze cold. You clearly know that I do not want to hurt you. Why do you have to provoke my jealousy? I can't bear to hurt you, so I can only vent my anger elsewhere. Tell me, how about I change little Shen's name? Not Qixuan, let's change him to Fish in the Pond. You keep using Qixuan to threaten me, aren't you sick of it? Gu Mingming really hated him. She swore that as long as Qixuan was no longer so blindly loyal to Cole, she would personally tear Cole into pieces. But Cole didn't mind. He just smiled. It doesn't matter if it's new or old as long as it works. Little Shen is your Achilles heel. As long as I control him, you can't do anything to me, right? Even if you are so angry that you want to bite me to death, I will still generously display my artery in front of you, but you still have to forcefully suppress your desires and anger. Gu, your life is too tiring. Isn't it better to be more unbridled? As long as you can break through that shackle, your soul will be the most free. Break through the shackle? The shackle in his eyes was her son. Anyone could say harsh words, but if they couldn't do it, it was just nonsense. Gu Mingming didn't want to waste even a little more saliva on Cole. She just glared at him fiercely. She wanted to remember the pain and anger she was feeling now, so that she could settle the score with him in the future. Qixin made a soft sound. Gu Mingming's heart was on Qixin. She jumped down from Elvis's arms and pounced towards Qixin. She hugged him carefully. Qixin, tell Mummy, are you feeling better? Does it still hurt? Qixin moved his limbs slightly, before slowly transforming into a human in Gu Mingming's arms. Gu Mingming sized Qixin up. She didn't see a single wound on him. She touched his arms and legs. His bones had all grown back. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. Qixin looked at Gu Mingming and pursed his lips as if he did not know what to say. Him following Cole was equivalent to Gu Mingming being controlled by others. Seeing Gu Mingming being forced into a corner because of him, it was not that he did not feel guilty, but he could not stop. He wanted to say, "Mom, I'm sorry," but how could these 5 words express his apology? Besides, if he didn't repent, what was the point of saying sorry? He also wanted to say, "Mummy, don't bother about me in the future," but he also knew that Gu Mingming was different from other females. If she could be more selfish and not care about his life or death, she would not have been so helpless against Cole and could only shed tears. If only his mother was a little more selfish, then perhaps his heart would not be so tormented. But his mother was not him. She did not have a heart as cruel as him, nor did she have a personality as selfish as him. In the end, Qixin did not say a single word to Gu Mingming. He just stood there and let Gu Mingming stare at him with her teary eyes. Then he turned around and walked back to Cole's side. He lowered his head and did not say a word, just frowning deeply. Cole gently rubbed Qixuan's head with his large hands. My good little Qixin, this is a blessing in disguise for you. Not only did you not die, you even leveled up. Ah, you are indeed the son I raised. You are indeed the most outstanding one in the litter of cubs. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. Sigh, I still had to be disgusted by Cole on my birthday. I am probably the only author who would torture himself like this. Chapter 991. Seeing that Cole was about to bring Qixin away, Gu Mingming grabbed Qixuan's hand. Qixin, Mummy has not seen you for a long time. Can you stay with me for a few days? Just a few days. Qixin did not say a word and just looked at Cole with pursed lips. Cole smiled but did not say a word. He had a you decide attitude. Gu Mingming ignored Cole and just walked to Qixin. Her eyes were filled with anticipation and even pleading. Your brothers are here too. They are in the stray beast camp. They just evolved into level 1 orcs. You probably haven't seen what they look like after evolution, have you? Let's go and take a look, okay? Qixin remained silent as he looked at Cole again. Gu Mingming bit her lip. She had never thought that there would be a day when she would have to beg another man in order to keep her son by her side. Most importantly, this man was not even her son's father. The humbleness that she had never experienced in love was all used on her son. Gu Mingming turned around, her hand still clutching tightly onto Qixuan's wrist, as if she was afraid that he would run away the moment she turned around. Gu Mingming bit her lip and said, I want Qixin to stay with me for a few days. Go ahead. Cole stood with his hands clasped behind his back as if he didn't care at all. But that sly and cold smile was filled with a sense of provocation. This meant that if he did not agree, Qixin would not agree. Gu Mingming took a deep breath. Isn't the stray beast camp your territory? Since we're already here, why not go back and take a look? Cole chuckled and played with a few strands of hair in front of Gu Mingming's forehead. Agu, are you inviting me? Gu Mingming suppressed her disgust and glared at Cole with clenched teeth. It was as if Cole could not understand the hatred in her eyes. He nodded and accepted it gladly. Since it is Agu's invitation, how can I let her down? I'll accompany you wherever you go. Gu Mingming turned to pull back her hair, then turned to look at Qixin, her face full of anticipation. Qixin opened his mouth and finally said softly, I will go wherever he goes. Gu Mingming nodded and pulled Qixin into her arms. Now, Qixin was as tall as a grown man and Gu Mingming could no longer carry him like a child. Today she could only wrap her arms around his waist and her height only reached his chest. But even so, a mother's hug still exuded boundless warmth, burning Qixuan's chest. Gu Mingming did not let Elvis hug her, but held onto Qixuan's hand stubbornly, not willing to let go for even a moment. Elvis's heart ached for her to walk on the mountain roads. Even though she was wearing beast skin boots, the soles were too thin and her feet were so soft. Her skin would break after walking for less than 500 meters. If she really had to walk to the base camp of the backwave beasts, her feet would be so worn that even her bones could be seen. Hence, Elvish transformed into his beast form and carried Gu Mingming on his back. He did not seem to mind that the mounts of most females in the beast world were beast pets that would never have the chance to mate. That was a sign that their family status was low and they lacked power. He didn't care what others thought of him as long as his Xiaomeng didn't suffer. Chapter 992. Gu Mingming didn't have time for him. Elvis, who was carrying Gu Mingming, also didn't have time for him. Leah was free but a 4th-level beast was too weak, so Wabiai turned his attention to Cole. "I heard you are the king of the stray beasts?" Wabiai asked. Cole chuckled. "How would I dare to call myself king in front of Lord Wabiai?" Wabiai really didn't like such a pretentious person. He snorted. "I saw that you were quite arrogant when you were mocking Gu Mingming. Why are you so terrified now?" Cole wasn't angry. "I have always been gentle and polite to those I cannot afford to offend." That was the truth. Cole couldn't beat Wabiai. There used to be someone in this world who could beat Wabiai's snake. Unfortunately, he died. Now there was Gu Mingming who could beat Wabiai. Unfortunately, she was busy. Wabiai shouted, "Being invincible is so empty." He glanced sideways at Cole. "If you're a coward, then so be it. Why are you spouting so much nonsense?" With that, he ignored Cole's reaction and walked over to Gu Mingming. "Gu Mingming, where are we going next? When are we going to fight? I have been cooped up for an entire winter. My bones are all stiff." Gu Mingming glared at Wabiai impatiently. "Do you think I have violent tendencies? How can there be so many fights for you? Don't disturb me from coaxing my son." Wabiai pointed at Qixuan. "He is already so big. Does he still need you to coax him? I don't care. Hurry up and fight me." Gu Mingming was really annoyed. She hooked her finger at Wabiai to come over. Wabiai swung his arms and walked to Gu Mingming's side. Then he was sent flying far away by a slap from Gu Mingming. He only managed to stop after crashing through 7 to 8 trees. This time, not only Wabiai but even Gu Mingming herself was stunned. Her strength, when did it become so great? In the past, Wabiai would stop after crashing into a tree. At most he would break one. Today she had purposely held back. How did this happen? Wabiai wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and swooped back in front of Gu Mingming. He stared fixedly at Gu Mingming and hesitated for a long while. "Let me see the mark on the back of your neck." Gu Mingming pushed aside her hair and turned to show Wabiai. Wabiai was stunned for a moment and shook his head. "It's not him, it's not him. How could this happen? Why isn't it him?" "What?" Gu Mingming didn't know what was going on either. She was a little worried when she saw Wabiai looking like he had seen a ghost. Wabiai stared at Gu Mingming with widened eyes, as though blood was about to drip out of them. He held onto Gu Mingming's shoulders and said, "Go and see your father now. Ask him what he did to Snake." Gu Mingming reached out to touch the back of her neck. She could not see any changes to the mark, so she could only seek help from Leah, who was standing behind her and scrutinizing the mark on the back of her neck. She used her gaze to ask if there was anything wrong with Snake's mark. Leah was a fox, he might be able to differentiate the minute differences between animals with 4 legs, but snakes? From Lee's point of view, every snake really looked the same. Leah shook her head, indicating that she did not know. Gu Mingming could only look at Wabiai again. "Don't be crazy. You have to explain clearly before I can ask. You're already more than 800 years old, why are you so jumpy?" Chapter 993. Changed? Gu Mingming didn't understand. She looked down at her collarbone. Elvis was a 3rd-level beast when they mated, and now he was a 5th-level beast. But the mating mark hadn't changed. It had remained the same as when he was a 3rd-level beast. The mark on her ear could only be seen at the water's edge, but Leah would definitely tell her if there were any changes. So why did Snake's mark change? Was it because it wasn't a mating mark but a protection mark? But what was the turning point? Could it be that Wabiai's worries were right? Did something happen to Snake over there? Perhaps she really should ask the beast deity, but, looking at Qixuan who was holding hands, Gu Mingming pursed her lips and suppressed the uneasiness in her heart. She couldn't go to sleep now. She would sleep for at least 3 to 4 days and Qixuan would definitely be gone by the time she woke up. If she missed this chance, she didn't know when she would see Qixuan again. There was one thing she had to try no matter what. She couldn't help but hold Qixuan's hand tighter. Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with determination. She looked back at Wabiai and said, I will ask him later but not now. Wabiai was enraged. He pointed at Gu Mingming and shouted, he has already died for you once, what else do you want him to do? Is your female heart made of stone? Can't you show him even the slightest bit of mercy? Gu Mingming bit her lip and accepted all of Wabiai's accusations. She admitted that she owed Snake. She deserved to be scolded. But she was a mother. In her eyes, nothing was more important than her own son. Qixin had already gone through the gates of hell once today. She couldn't guarantee that pervert Cole would think of another way to torture Qixin, or place him in some dangerous place again. She wanted to snatch Qixin back. She had to snatch him back. You. Seeing Gu Mingming's silent but uncompromising attitude, Wabiai's eyes narrowed. He was clearly enraged. Charging forward, he roared, I will knock you out even if I have to risk my life today. Before Wabiai could reach Gu Mingming, Leah had already scooped her into his arms and retreated far away. Meanwhile, Elvis stood up at the same time and neutralized Wabiai's attack. Both of them continued to fight. Elvis and Wabiai had fought many battles, real or fake, so they were familiar with each other's attacks. At this moment, Wabiai was really anxious. Snake was a string that he could not touch and he could not calm down at all. On the other hand, Gu Mingming was the bottom line that Elvis would never give in to. No matter how strong she was, he would never allow anyone to attack her in front of him. The two of them were locked in a stalemate. In terms of skills, Elvis was still slightly weaker than Wabiai. Seeing that Elvis was gradually losing ground, Gu Mingming frowned and shouted, everyone stop. She did not release her beast pressure. But Wabiai suddenly fell to the ground as if something was pressing down on him. He couldn't even get up. Elvis stood rooted to the ground, stunned for a moment. Turning back to look at Gu Mingming, he was also in a daze. Gu Mingming didn't know what was going on. She had clearly just shouted and she could scare the out-of-control Wabiai to the ground? She didn't think that Wabiai was that afraid of her. That was. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.